we make you laugh? Aren't we fucking funny?
Does that sound right?
What's the boogeyman?
Welcome back to the Moonjuice Horror Metal Podcast, the podcast where we live and breathe heavy metal and horror, but are not afraid to shit all over both of them. What's going on, Mike?
Everything's fine so far. No?
So if you're
What?
same shit, different day. If you're wondering about the background, I'm on vacation in the States and Mike is in Germany. Like, I'm sitting downstairs underneath the beach house, like, not freezing to death, but it's chilly because it's like 6 in the morning here and it's like 1 o'clock in Germany, and Mike is warmer than me.
2 p.m. It's about 2 p.m. and you're sitting in the morning on your porch, on the beach. That must be awesome too, yeah.
Pretty cool. Everybody else is still asleep. I set my alarm and got up early.
So you know what movie we're doing today, you know?
We're doing Nosferatu, 2004.
Yeah.
Robert Eggers. Again, the same guy who did The Witch.
2024, also known as
2024.
Discount Dracula. Also known as Discount.
Why is it known as Discount Dracula, Mike?
Discount Dracula. It's known as Discount. Everybody who's seen the movie, no, probably, even if you have like younger people, no, I probably noticed this movie is basically the same as Dracula. And to everybody who actually thought that, you're right. What people might not know is that Nosferatu is not technically it is not a rip-off of Dracula, because back in the day when the movie was first released in 1922, the movie was so similar to Dracula that Bram Stoker's wife, I mean, the most sources I looked up, it was his wife, and others it's his family, but it's pretty much safe to say it's his wife. Bram Stoker's wife sued the movie company that made Nosferatu for plagiarism, no? And she won in front of court. So all copies at the time of the movie Nosferatu were collected and destroyed, except for one. That one copy made it to the States, and all of the copies that exist today were made from that one copy that was sent to the U.S. And why? I don't know. It's just kind of the thing is actually the creators, when they made it, they said, the thing is, I can't entirely remember the name. They wanted to actually make a retelling of the Dracula story. So they basically just changed all of the names and made their movie. So it was always intentionally meant to be a Dracula story, but a retelling.
Yes.
And they just done it, they executed it so poorly that that was literally just the exact same fucking story, and it's plagiarism.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's funny. It's funny how things evolve too, because if you're a vampire fan in any way and you go back and you watch these films, like everything leading up to kind of what we know as vampires now, if you go back and you find Nosferatu and you watch it, as someone who doesn't know all this, it's really troublesome to watch it and then be like, wait, why are all these characters' names different than the actual characters' names? This is really weird. And why is this vampire called Count Orlok instead of, Dracula? And that's why. It's because it's a direct ripoff. But it gets more credit than Dracula does, which is crazy. But the movie that came out in the 90s, Bram Stoker's Dracula, was actually pretty good.
It is.
It's a great movie.
Yep. Because that's what a lot of people say, it would get more credit, and I would say yes and no. It depends on what you think. I mean, when it comes to people talking on the internet, movies itself, yes. No? Because, of course, Dracula created the modern vampire as we know it, but Nosferatu basically turned the modern vampire into what we know today. But the fact is, I mean, there were the character itself, there were not much Nosferatu movies. There were like 2 or 3. Well, but on the other hand, if you take like Dracula, if you take only the Dracula movies, there are, I don't know, there were like 3 before the 90s Dracula, no? Then there was Wes Craven's Dracula, that's an entire trilogy, no? Then early 2000s, there was a Dracula movie, and those are only like the movies that are directly a Dracula movie. We're not talking about literally every single other vampire franchise that has used that character one way or another, or other series that are based around it, like a Castlevania, like Blade, for example. Now, also Dracula is the big vampire. Buffy, and all other. I mean, Dracula, I would say Dracula gets more credit because that character itself has been used countless times anywhere that has anything to do with vampires. Other than the Nosferatu. The only
Yeah.
actually big popular vampire franchise that I know that has actually used the Nosferatu vampire type was Blade 2, of course. The Reaper vampires, they're clearly inspired by Nosferatu. And Vampire the Masquerade, because
Yeah.
Nosferatu is a vampire clan.
And What We Do in the Shadows. Have you seen What We Do in the
Yes,
Shadows? Oh, dude, it's great.
I started watching
It's
it,
great. I think a lot of people try to watch the series first, but there was a movie before the series, right? And so the movie's great because the movie kind of follows these vampires in modern time, and the Nosferatu character, they don't say his name, so they don't say it's Count Orlok, but he looks exactly like him, and he's like ancient. He lives in the basement of this shitty house in his fucking coffin, and even when the other vampires open the coffin, he's like they don't want to talk to him. They don't want to be around him. He's just kind of a dick. They're like, yeah, he's old as fuck, man. But the series was great. It just kind of expounded on the whole vampire lore and made it more ridiculous. And there's a whole like fight between werewolves and vampires in that series too. But it's done very comically and really well. I love the series. If you guys hadn't had a chance, check out What We Do in the Shadows. It's hilarious. The fact that they have an energy vampire in there too is hilarious.
Heard about that energy vampire.
Okay.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, so Nosferatu, like this film, it's I kind of okay. So first of all, it's Robert Eggers, right? So and it's from a film that came out in the 20s, which was originally a silent film. And when you watch this movie, you can see that he kind of took a lot of the same, I would say, atmosphere and feeling from the original film and put it in this one. So it's true to the original silent film in a lot of ways, my opinion.
yeah, it is absolutely. It is very true. I would just say this is like Bram Stoker's Dracula from the '90s, no? For Nosferatu, more or less. No,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
pretty much what it is. It follows, yeah, basically from beginning to the end is the same story as Dracula, Nosferatu. No, so I'm probably gonna
yeah.
make fun of that very often in this video.
That's fine. Do it. Dracula, not Dracula.
Yeah, I'm Dracula, not Dracula. Yeah, okay. So it follows pretty much the exact same storyline as the original Nosferatu, no? And of course it has an all-star cast, no?
Mhm.
You have Pennywise, no?
Yeah,
Or Bill Skarsgård.
Skarsgård. Yeah,
That's Count Orlok, no? So now that he's played like, I don't know, this is like the second movie he's playing a vampire in, no?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know where he was in. I haven't seen. I've seen
yeah. He's in Hemlock
the
Grove.
see the werewolf transformation scene. That one, that's awesome, by the way.
Yeah, it was really good. Yeah,
And it's like, okay, well, he's Count Orlok, and then you have Lily Rose Depp, Johnny Depp's daughter. No, now
yeah.
this is fucking hilarious. I just found it hilarious that not more people in Germany are making fun of this name.
Why?
You know what Depp means in German, though?
Yeah, dip means like an idiot, like a stupid
A
person.
moron.
Yeah,
Moron.
just dip. Yeah,
So just like that. So that's just funny because we talk about Johnny Depp in English. It's safe to call him Johnny Moron because his name in German literally is Moron.
Johnny Depp. Yeah, a
Yeah,
lot of people don't know that.
yeah. But
Yeah,
I like Johnny Depp's movies, and so far this is like the only movie I've seen his daughter in, and she's great in it. No?
it's the only thing I've ever seen her in.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
she plays this role, dude. Like she got into it for real. There's some scenes in here where I'm like, oh Jesus, what did she have to do that? But she's like really embodying the role, especially when she's kind of taken under the enchantment of Count Orlok or Dracula, not Dracula. When she's having her convulsions and stuff, and she's talking about things like the body horror, just in her performance alone, is pretty significant.
Exactly. Yeah, of course. Also, who's playing it is Emma Corrin now.
Yeah,
She's playing, but Lily Rose Depp is playing Nina Harker. And
yeah,
Emma Corrin, now she played like in Deadpool and Wolverine. She played,
yeah,
I think it was Professor Xavier's daughter now.
yeah,
And then we have Nicholas Holt as Jonathan Harker.
yeah. Beast.
I'm gonna say the Dracula names. I don't give a shit. No.
Dracula, not
Dracula, not Dracula, because I know his name is Thomas Hucha. No, but I don't care. I'm calling him Jonathan Harker. No?
That's cool. Yeah,
Then we have William Dafoe as Van Helsing,
yeah,
and we have Aaron Taylor Johnson as Friedrich Hardy. And I
Yeah.
don't remember what the Dracula equivalent to it is, so I'm just gonna call him Friedrich. Huh?
Okay.
The Americans probably gonna say Friedrich because that's what they say in the movie, but it's Friedrich.
Yeah, that's the other thing that got me about this. Like the original Nosferatu was a silent film, so there were no accents, right? And the original film had German subtitles. Like everything was in German because it was a German film.
Yeah, yeah.
And this movie takes place in Germany. The opening of it takes place in Germany, and the characters are German. They all have terrible British accents. There's no German spoken in this film. When they say the names of Germans, it's not pronounced correctly. That drives me crazy.
Yeah.
That drives me absolutely insane. I cannot stand it. It's like Schindler's List, man. Like when they did Schindler's List, all the Germans in that movie had a British accent, and that drives me crazy. I'm just like, if you want to stay historical and do this right, just get German actors. Just get German actors. People, it's a horror movie, right? Not that the actors did a bad job, they did a great job, but put in German actors and put in English subtitles. Make people like get into the film, and they didn't do that. And that's like my only real big complaint with this movie.
It's just like
You could have done this right, but you didn't.
it's just I don't remember how they pronounce Van Helsing's name in this movie, but it's also being Eberhard von Brandt.
Yeah, it's an extremely German name,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
Swiss actually, because the
It,
character's Swiss. But
that's
yeah,
like I mean you can't get more German than that. Also being Eberhard von Brandt. Friedrich Harding. I mean,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, those are
Can't
different.
remember when they said it. It was I can't remember the actor's name in this version of Nosferatu, but it's the friend of the main character male, right? And they're sitting there, and it's the same actor who played the father in The Witch. Is the guy who says his name? He's like, well, I've got this doctor, and
Yeah,
he might be able to diagnose her, and his name is blah. And I was like, no, he
I
didn't,
mean, it's
man.
because
Yeah, yeah, okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. I know. I know. It was the one with Nicolas Cage, right? It was Renfield. Yeah, yeah, I noticed that. I was like, oh, okay, that's probably why he got picked for this role.
yeah, I mean, by the way, the movie Renfield was awesome. I loved it. It was
Oh, I love that movie. I loved it, man. It's a laugh from the start to the finish. Like it's a great
yes.
comedy. If you guys haven't seen Renfield, go check out Renfield. It's great. It's a bloody good time too. There's a lot of gore.
It is. I don't know. You have the actors in this movie, just like Nicholas Holt. No, he's like now in every single fucking movie. Right?
He
I mean,
is.
if it's, you can guarantee if it's science fiction, fantasy, or horror, he's in it. No,
Yeah,
it's just like I mean, Skarsgård. You can like or dislike the new It movies, but also he's in every popular iconic horror figure at this time. He's finally
yeah.
already been.
Yeah, well, the thing about him is that whole family, man, that whole family blows my mind because they've like the actors, those actors from that family have been in a lot of great horror films and they've been in a lot of really good, like the family's just extremely talented. And he plays, okay, so Count Orlok has a big handlebar mustache in this movie, which was a decision. I'm not sure why they did it, but even with that, he plays this character brilliant. Like I really like his Count Orlok, but I can't help but see him as Pennywise still. I don't know why. He's got like the shoulders that are way up here,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
looks just like Pennywise to me. I'm like, oh
Yeah,
look, it's Pennywise as a vampire.
that's absolutely true. So can I just say, at that point, let's just get into the movie, no?
Okay.
No, so yeah, the movie basically starts out, with Nina Harker. No, she's at home. No, uh, in a bed, praying and dreaming about something, and then she, from outside hears the weird ASMR, noises going on.
Yeah.
No, so she gets up, is in her room now, walks towards the window, looks outside. It's totally fucking dark. No, and then keeps on hearing these voices, like this voice, oh come to me, baby. So she eventually then decides to go out into the garden. No, and it's more or less just them standing there,
Yeah.
and doing basically nothing, not until she's just, staring at the sky. And then straight out of nowhere, you see like Count Orlok just kind of jumping right after and grabbing her by the neck. What is clearly only
Yeah.
a kind of psychic thing. because at this
Yeah.
point for him, there was like this oath going on and that she's repeating or whatever. So clearly, Count Orlok is influencing her and getting her to make this oath with him.
Right.
And after grabs her on the neck and scares her, you just see her, on the floor having a seizure. And yeah, then it basically just goes black. No, you see the Nosferatu logo and everything. And then it just jumps to, years later.
So that scene right there was kind of meant to establish the fact that he's had a hold on her before any of this started. So
Yes,
even
yes.
before she was married, he's had a hold on her. We didn't get this scene in the original Nosferatu at all. So this is an additional scene that Robert Eggers kind of added in to add some more context to the film, because I think in the original one you didn't really get the sense that he was around or even knew who she was before her husband showed up. And
Yeah,
I think in the original film, he shows up over at Count Orlok's castle to give him the deed for the property that he bought. And then he sees a photo that he has of her, I think, on his person. And that's when he becomes obsessed with her. But in this movie, he was already
yes,
controlling her a little bit
yeah,
before he
yeah.
even came over. So
That's different because
changes the
that's like
story a little bit.
it does a little bit, but that's kind of the thing. It's nothing actually new because the entire Nina Harker thing or whatever has been done multiple times, and also
Yeah.
in Dracula. If you go
Yeah.
to the straight original story, it was when Jonathan Harker went to the Dracula castle. That's when he saw the picture of Nina Harker,
Yeah.
and that's when he knew it looked just like his wife when he was still
Yeah.
immortal. No, and
Yeah.
he saw her as this reincarnation or whatever. But yeah,
Right.
but that is what he done actually knew in this story. However, now we're pretty much years later. Nina Harker wakes up in her bed, and it's like in the morning, and you have like her husband Jonathan Harker, just getting dressed because he has to go to work. They
Yeah.
have this short discussion of what's going on. And then Jonathan Harker, runs over the street. You see, like, it blends in, like, this is Germany, whatever,
Yeah.
there. And by the way, this looks pretty much like, to me, it looks like Hamburg or Hanover, no? But
Yeah, it does. I thought the same thing. Yeah.
just like, because I'm going to be honest, I never really knew what city the original story took place in. But I see
I
this
never
is
paid
very,
attention, or I don't even know if they said it, but it's somewhere with a harbor.
it does. Visburg. Visburg is what it says.
This book.
Was
Oh,
a
okay.
It was a fictional city, by the way, because it doesn't
Mm,
exist in Germany. But
okay.
but you can clearly see if you look at the houses or whatever. I mean, um, a lot of houses in northern Germany literally look this way.
Yeah.
Like the typical. They're all. I mean, all of the houses in Germany are made out of stone. The majority of them.
Yeah.
But this is like
Right.
literally in northern Germany, 80% of the houses are brick houses. 80% of them. No,
Yeah.
so it does. Yeah, and you have like with the coast and everything going on. I just instantly thought this was Hamburg or Hanover, but it's not. No?
Yeah.
So then and then Jonathan Harker is running through the streets, and then he's finally getting back into the office where it says Nock and Maya. No, it's
Hmm.
basically this real estate thing that's going on, and then
Right.
he goes into his work, and then he instantly meets his boss, Renfield. No, and they have like this discussion going on that Renfield is telling like Jonathan Harker, yeah, we have like this super rich, influential count that wants to buy a city here in this point, and he wants somebody to personally go there and sell him the house. So
Right.
this is basically where it sets up that Jonathan Harker has to go to Dracula, not Dracula's castle, and they're just basically talking about it at this point. I mean, at this point, Renfield just strikes, yeah, this typical old white dude, this old rich white dude that's just a complete fucking idiot with a stick up his ass.
Yeah.
Yeah, but later on,
But
it turns out that
extremely eccentric, personality wise,
I mean,
for sure.
extremely. I mean, to be honest, I mean this guy. Now, like, I mean, in this movie specifically, Renfield. This guy. I mean, he makes Renfield in any other Dracula story look like fucking child's play because this is like the most.
Yeah, he does. This guy's disgusting.
This is the most insane
Yeah.
version of Renfield I have ever seen. Literally.
It's even crazier than the Dracula version because he's out of his fucking mind. He's out of
Yeah.
his fucking mind. Like the original Renfield would eat bugs and stuff, and seem a little crazy. This guy's bonkers. I
Yes.
love the
Yeah.
betrayal.
but that also had a certain thing to it, because in the original Dracula, he was a familiar. Depending on the
Yeah.
story, vampire familiars are also called ghouls or whatever things.
Right.
And in the original story, Renfield actually gained supernatural powers from eating bugs. Because at one point or another, Dracula fed him his blood, and that made him turn into this familiar thing. Also varies from story to story.
Yeah.
I could be mixing up different Dracula stories at this point, but who cares?
No, you're right. I mean, the character of Renfield has been kept pretty much the same with a couple of minor changes throughout the stories.
Exactly.
But he's always been a crazy bastard who eats animals, like
Yeah, yeah,
live.
yeah. But it's still like Nicholas Holt's version of Renfield is the one I
Yeah,
like the most because he's also complete fucking insane. But it's just like it's the first version that actually made him likable. You actually like this
yeah,
guy.
yeah,
If I had in all of the Dracula stories, Renfield is just this guy. Like you're just like, yeah, he's just a fucking nut job.
yeah. He's a throwaway character in most of those.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And then of course, after discussion, because Jonathan Harker is talking to Renfield, he's like, "Hey, man, I just got married, and I wanted to spend time with my wife, our honeymoon, and blah blah blah." And he's like, "No, you
right.
have to go do this or whatever." And it's just like, okay, I know this is like pretty much the beginning of the 20th century, and it was different times, but it's just like, I mean, come on, even back then, if a guy just got fucking married, you can send somebody else,
Yeah,
of course. But he's probably but he's Redfield and he's being influenced by Dracula, not Dracula. Or Count Orlok.
right. Well, that's the thing that I have to question if it would have even happened because these guys, we're not talking about times where people had cars, you know. You had rickety carriages and horses, and you're asking a guy to go from extreme northern Germany all the way to Transylvania with a horse just to
Not
get a
Transylvania.
guy to sign paper.
Yeah, it's not okay. Well, in Dracula, it would be Transylvania. This is somewhere in the Carpathian Mountains. That's somewhere up
Transylvania,
there.
not Transylvania.
Pennsylvania, not Transylvania. That's what basically exactly. Pennsylvania,
Yeah,
not Transylvania. Yeah, so this kind of Transylvania, we're gonna call it. No? However, Jonathan Harker now goes home basically to tell his freshly married wife, the Wilford Luz, that he has
yeah,
to go and be gone for like multiple months.
yeah.
Any guy that's been in a relation can imagine how this discussion goes down. She's fucking pissed,
She's angry.
rightfully
Yeah,
so. Yeah,
yeah.
rightfully so. And then they have like this discussion, and he's like, "Oh yeah, but this is my chance to make something out of myself," and blah 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 blah.
Right,
And this is
right.
another time where I felt like like this guy is kind of a little bit dumb. I mean, like he's a real
Yeah,
estate agent back in the early 20th century, where he could make a lot of fucking money. By the way, he has a good
mm,
job, just got married, has his own apartment, so I'm gonna be honest, this guy is
doing
doing
okay.
pretty good considering
Yeah,
the circumstances he's under, no?
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
not just that too. The other thing you have to remember is like if you were to go away on this kind of trip at this time, there is absolutely no guarantee whatsoever that your family is ever going to see you again. Because if you go to a strange land that's this far away and you have to stay, medicine is not where it is now. So if you were to get sick, you could easily die either on the way or on the way back. And he's like pitching this to his wife, who obviously loves him and wants to hang to hang around. She should be very upset.
Yeah, yeah,
I
well,
would be.
what she is, yeah.
Yeah,
However, yeah, well then it goes, straight back to them driving in a wagon because they're going now to Jonathan Harker's best friend, Friedrich, no?
yeah,
Because during the time where Jonathan Harker is, having a fun time with Count Orlok,
yeah,
she's gonna be basically staying with Friedrich. And they're having like this discussion, about everything that Friedrich has done for him and all the money he borrowed to him, whatever. And Friedrich is like, nah,
yeah.
just shut the fuck up. Don't care
He's
about the
like, don't
money,
worry about the
everything's
money.
fine, just shut up. Yeah, yeah. So basically just, a normal friend was actually kind of cool.
Yeah,
And yeah, okay. Well, then they're basically just talking, Friedrich is showing him his kids. Oh god, Midnight, come on. Good. My And yeah, and that's pretty much where it is going down to. Then pretty much after that, after you have like Friedrich and his wife and his kids, and they're doing family stuff or
yeah.
whatever.
You kind of meet that
Uh,
family.
and so basically, they meet the family. They basically just take the kids upstairs, to bring the kids to bed, and then it's nighttime again, where they're basically just spending the last night. and then in the next morning, Jonathan Harker gets ready, up on his horse, to go to travel toward Discount Transylvania. No?
Yeah. Discount Transylvania. Yeah.
Exactly. So, but after the first
Very,
scene,
very quick
short,
trip. Very, very quick trip.
it's a very, very quick trip, yeah. And what's interesting is shortly before the morning begins, you have like this one scene where you have like Renfield in this room doing this satanic magic ritual shit, and he's butt naked.
Yeah.
What? By the way, this is like the most scene that is, I don't know, totally fucking ridiculous because it just happened way too fast. He goes like from this real
Yeah.
big, serious business dude to just totally fucking whack.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I didn't get the transition. It was really fucking
yeah,
quick. It was so quick that when I originally saw the movie, I didn't recognize who this was. You know what I mean? Like I
yes,
know who the character is, and I know who his boss was, but to see this, it's like, is that the same guy? You know what I mean? Because they did it like
yeah,
this. There was no transition from normal person to complete psycho.
yeah, absolutely. It just goes from this normal business guy to total fucking psycho with no transition. It
Yeah,
it was just weird. Yeah, however, now it's basically just as we said the next morning. As I just said a few minutes ago, Jonathan Harker is now getting dressed, getting ready to leave. He's saying bye to everyone. Friedrich is for some reason smiling at him, like, "Yo, go have a great time," and everybody else is totally bummed out.
yeah.
So then he just arrived uh into the
On
day.
his horse into the mountains.
On his horse. Okay, he probably doesn't go there only by horse. He probably just goes to the next train station or whatever. I don't
Yeah.
fully remember. And uh, I'm not entirely sure what happens next because they have this one scene where um, Nina Harker with her friend is walking on the beach.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the
but
scene
I'm
you
not.
get. Yeah.
No, 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 no,
So
no. Like, I'm not sure when it
you get
happens,
him, you
but
get traveling, right? And then
yeah,
he's kind of, you see the transition from Germany and then immediately to Transylvania, not Transylvania, right?
yes,
And he's
exactly.
kind of up on a, what kind of looks like a mountain overlooking a city, which is obviously the city where he's going to be spending the night. And then you get this talk with Nina Harker on the beach with her friend.
Oh, no, 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 because now he's no, not because I'm just looking it up now, but no,
Okay,
actually.
okay.
Actually, you see like the mountains or whatever, the Carpathian Mountains, like just got Transylvania, no? And now you have like Jonathan Harker. So he rode here with his horse because he's now in Transylvania with his horse. And
Yeah.
he's like this big overview of this, valley where you can see this, old village. So now he's basically traveling into this old village where it's clearly well, even for this time, kind of backwards to people because it's kind of like, it's weird because it's somehow,
Gypsies,
it's just a
gypsies,
normal
gypsy culture.
gypsy. Okay, exactly. Exactly. Gypsy
Yeah.
culture. Somehow it's a normal day, but somehow people are, like partying or whatever, having kind of a good time or whatever, even though everything's
They're
basically
playing
shut.
their music and their banjos or their
Yeah,
fucking ukuleles as he's walking by. This
yeah.
guy has been on probably a 3 week trip, if not longer than that. He's exhausted, and he's coming into this village, and there's screaming children and people playing their fucking mandolins in his face. And then he walks up to the front of the house, and there's a guy standing there smoking his pipe who immediately starts laughing at him hysterically. Yeah,
Yeah.
for no reason. And then everybody else around him, all the other gypsies and all the kids and everybody start laughing at him hysterically. And this is
Yeah.
like a laugh from a group of people as if a clown was standing in front of them. And I didn't get it. Like he doesn't look that different than they do. You know what I mean? But they're just
I don't
laughing
know.
maniacally.
I guess I don't know. It's weird just because I do think it's kind of like a social thing in this group. This guy clearly has some kind of meaning, and he just
Yeah.
thinks this guy is funny looking the way he is because he's all fancy. I guess that's what I think.
Yeah,
Probably this he's all fancy looking, and
probably.
he's literally just staring at him like, "What the fuck is going on here? What the fuck
Why is
is
everybody
going on?"
laughing at me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, then because he's just laughing at them because he's basically at this point, just asking for directions, here
Yeah.
where is Castle Orlok, basically what he says. And after he says that, I mean, people start to get pissed off. Oh, we're not going there, blah, blah, blah. No, that's when
Yeah.
they just, go basically break out. No? And eventually, after a short back and forth, he convinces them that he can just stay there for the night because he has to,
Yeah.
at that point,
Yeah, he offers to pay double So the guy who comes out, I looked up the translation for what he's saying because everybody's speaking Romanian at this time. And he comes out and he says a bunch of stuff, but basically what he's saying is, so you want to come here and you want to go to this cursed castle and you're asking if you can stay here? Like nobody likes that place, everybody hates it. What's wrong with you? And then he says, I'll pay double because he gets a hint that these people are not real friendly about where he wants to go. And so he offers to pay double, and everybody, their eyes kind of get wide, like, "Ooh, okay, okay." And then they agree that he can stay there.
Yeah, however, and then he's basically at this and the night, of course, it's in the nighttime, everybody's walking around with candles, and it's, just kind of like this overall, weird vibe.
Yeah,
But still, after the entire, kind of ridiculous way they met him, everybody's actually kind of actually pretty nice. No,
yeah,
to him, you have like this old lady walking with this candle, showing him his room. No, and I think then in the middle of the night, no, he gets up because he's waked up by noises. No, is not really sure what had happened, and then he just follows these noises into the woods. No? Before that, this old lady tells him some old saying like "Bless this virgin child" and some
right,
sayings
right,
about
right.
some
Some
weird.
local blessing to ward off evil is kind of what I thought it
Yeah,
was.
exactly. So then it basically goes into the woods now because these people are clearly doing some. He's not entirely sure what's going on at this point.
Yeah,
Just that these people are walking around with pitchforks and fire and blah blah blah. I mean, it's clearly what they're doing. They're hunting for vampires.
yeah.
At that point.
But
Huh?
he has no idea.
He
He's
has no
like, what
idea
is
what it
this
is.
freaky, weird local tradition where people wake up in the middle of the night with pitchforks and fire and dig up
Yeah.
graves?
Yeah, exactly. So he sees these people walking around pitchforks or whatever, nah, and then they have like they're all in this woods or whatever. They just dug out this grave, nah. Then you already see this when they open up the grave, this kind of dead figure that literally looks like Count Orlok. So it's clearly a vampire, nah. I
Yeah,
mean, it's not really. You can see it kind of decaying, but not really because his body is
yeah,
fully intact. So we clearly have a vampire here, no? And then he just picks
yeah,
up this big stake and rams it into his heart. And then, of course, Jonathan Harker, totally shocked by what he just sees, just screams, and everybody
yeah.
notices that he's there. And he's still
This
just
is a
fucking
nice
shocked.
gory scene too. Yeah,
Exactly, really good. No,
yeah.
you really see like him push the stake, into
He
the
pushes the
vampire.
stake in, and this like half dead corpse pukes up all this green stuff everywhere.
Yeah, so I
I'm
don't know
like,
what I think, but
that's a good scene. This is also a scene that we didn't get in the original Nosferatu. Like nothing like this happened. So this is kind of an extra scene he slipped in, and I think it's smart because if he had not seen this, he wouldn't know that you could kill the vampire by sticking it through the heart with something, right?
yeah,
Which he
yeah.
tries to do later. So he would not
Still,
have known to do that had he not seen this.
but still at this point, he's not really sure what's going on. But
Yeah,
however, he just then wakes up in his room the next morning, and everybody's gone. Like all of these gypsies, they're just gone.
gone.
So nobody really knows what happened. So I would just explain it like this: like these are gypsies, and they probably just came towards this village because they wanted to get rid of the vampire, and then they
Right.
moved on. Because these people, I guess, gypsies are kind of very nomadic, people.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably what's going on here.
Yeah,
However, then
that's what I got from it.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Then he, of course, gets up, gets his clothes on, and just heads toward Orlok's castle. You see, like first this real big bridge, no, where he has to go
Yeah.
over, and it's like this kind of mausoleum altar thing where you have a lot of fucking crosses on it, no. And this
Which should
is
have been
like
your first hint that
okay,
it might not be like a safe place to go. But okay, you go right
not
ahead,
that
dude. Yeah,
good. Yeah, you have this big dark road, no, where you have like this big wagon with horses, pulling up,
right.
stopping, and like these horses, it looks all like this typical, evil, scary shape. And then a door
Yeah,
just magically opens. And I'm gonna be honest,
yeah,
this isn't even fucking from Nosferatu. This is literally just from Dracula.
yeah.
It's not
It
even
is. It's totally
like
taken from Dracula. Because you didn't get this scene in the original Nosferatu either. This is a Dracula
no,
movie.
no, this
This is a
this
Dracula.
this is
Also, I don't know if you noticed, but the road he walked in on before the carriage showed up, the camera angle that they have it at when you're watching the guy walk, the road comes this way and then immediately crosses. And if the scene you're looking at him walking on the road looks like a big upside down cross. Did you catch that? Yeah. Yeah. And then this fucking carriage just shows up magically. Like,
this is at this point, I mean, it's like, okay, I get, yeah, you're making Nosferatu. It's a Dracula
Yeah.
ripoff.
Yeah.
What- and then you see you see this carriage pulling up now, and it magically opening.
Yeah.
Then it gets and it drives off, and you see down the road the carriage, just driving over the road, and you see the castle in the background, and the carriage being
Yeah.
chased by wolves. And I mean Robert Eggers. I mean, of course, this is
Dracula.
Nosferatu. It's a Dracula ripoff, but this scene. It's
Straight out of Dracula.
literally Dracula. That is
Yeah.
literally the exact same scene how Jonathan Harker is picked up from the street and taken to
Yeah.
Dracula's house. This is not even from Nosferatu. This is just straight out Dracula.
It's stolen directly from Dracula. This same scene happens in the Dracula movie that came out in the movie that came out in the 2000s with Keanu Reeves. This exact scene happens with the wolves, included. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean the thing is because that scene it's specifically in the Dracula novel. That is one of the most iconic scenes in the Dracula story, if you know the
Yeah.
story. And so this is just what I thought is fucking hilarious. So I mean, of course you're making a remake, but could you just
Yeah.
stick to the fucking Nosferatu story
Stick to
and
the
not make a
Nosferatu
movie
story.
that's already a ripoff of Dracula? And I mean,
Put a
wow,
Dracula scene in it.
what a Dracula scene.
That bothered me too. There's a couple of those scenes in this film where you're like, "That's Dracula." You see what you did? It's Dracula. You're ripping off your own story there, bro.
No, I mean that was cool. Okay, because but that one makes funny. Now this is a remake of of a movie that was originally meant to be a retelling, but was a ripoff. Was
Yeah.
sued, but blah blah blah, whatever. So
Yeah.
now he's making a remake of a ripoff. Now calling it just the remake of the ripoff, but it's taking scenes from the movie that the original ripped off into it and putting the.
You know, Eggers is he's not a stupid guy at all. Like he does his research too. So you know that he has to know he's doing this.
Of course, I mean,
He knows he's doing it.
you can't exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't tell me he doesn't know he's doing these things, huh?
Yeah.
Because I literally think, Robert Eggers, he was probably sitting there writing the script and says like, this is Dracula, so fuck it, I'm just gonna put Dracula scenes in.
The only thing that he didn't do, the only thing that he didn't do in this scene that would have made it exactly like Dracula is that you don't get that like transition scene from the end of the bridge to the castle because in the original story there's a lot of fog and it looks like there's no bridge going to the castle. So he drives into the fog and then magically he's at the castle. So there's like this transportation kind of thing going on. And he didn't do that, but that is the only thing that would have made this scene exactly like Dracula, but he didn't do it. So, okay.
You just see him, the carriage being chased by wolves over to the Dracula. And then
Yeah.
it's direct to the big and the doors open up, and then Jonathan Harker, walks into the castle up the stairs and in this room, and then is greeted by Count Orlok. Now that is
Yeah.
just sitting back in his chair, and it's kind of the thing. You can see Count Orlok breathing very heavy.
Yeah. Yeah.
All the time.
This
where it's
this
like,
is a nice touch. This is a nice touch. I like this. I like this. It adds a level of creepiness to it.
it does have a kind of level of creepiness to it because in the original Dracula, Dracula appeared first as an old, but he wasn't really like this creepy. He was just an old man, no? But that was the thing that kind of, in the original Dracula story, God have told you off as something weird because he started out as an old. And over the days Jonathan Harker was there, he kept getting young for some.
Yeah. Right.
Now, this is what clearly Nosferatu does differently. And even back in the time, this Dracula had always the kind of romantic, kind of idealized, and erotic touch to it. Now, that's what Dracula created the modern vampire, and it brought that to what kind of made it interesting in a lot of stories. It didn't happen until I would say where you actually saw vampire stories where the stories were from the point of the vampire, more or less. Back in the day, the vampire stories were always the vampires were always the antagonist, and the humans were the good guys.
Right.
Back in the 80s, I think it was, if I remember correctly, Interview with a Vampire and Russ, that
Yeah.
started that trend. It might have
Yeah.
not been the first vampire story, but but Interview with the Vampire popularized that concept. A vampire
Right.
story out of the view of vampires.
Right.
Nosferatu, just as we said, brought in this kind of different kind of type of vampire, where it showed that it's not all handy dandy and nice to be a vampire, because you could see what Nosferatu, what Count Dracula, Count Orlok
Yeah.
looks like. No, he looks like shit. I mean, he doesn't look
Yeah.
healthy.
He's basically a walking corpse.
Yeah, it is. He's a walking corpse. He breathes very heavily, all of that. So he kind of has issues breathing. It's still kind of unclear if these kind of health issues go away with feeds off of blood. No, but
Yeah.
just
Well, so here's the thing. This is like kind of like transcending film history here, because when you get into the thousands with Bram Stoker's Dracula, it's almost like with that character, they took it back to Nosferatu. I don't know if you noticed that, but in the 2000s version, he's a very old man with a weird haircut, whatever. But in that movie, he doesn't get younger as Jonathan Harker is at the castle either. He remains old and then leaves. So I felt like the 2000s Dracula, they actually went back to Nosferatu and used that.
no. I never felt that way. The nice Dracula. It's
No?
no, not really. I just felt like they didn't really show that specific scene. Now, because the original Dracula was a shapeshifter. What in this
Yeah.
case, Nosferatu wasn't. So
Yeah.
depending on the story, in the original, in the '90s Dracula movie,
Yeah.
when he went to England, now they just basically showed him coming up as his younger self.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just took out of that, the old man, shape or whatever. He pretty shits between them. What I took out.
Yeah.
Because he specifically also in the original Dracula, and in the '90s movie Dracula, have the scenes where he basically turns into a werewolf.
Yeah. Yeah, he
Yeah.
does. Yeah.
But that's also was all in the original Dracula story. However,
Yeah.
you have like in this Count Orlok and Jonathan Harker having to have this kind of the discussion going on about he wants to buy this house or whatever. And then Count Orlok is, oh, you have a wife or whatever. And then he sees the picture of Jonathan Harker's wife, no? And he's like, oh,
Right.
yeah, that's very nice. Sit down and eat. And
Yeah.
oh, yeah, you have a super hot wife. Sit down and eat, dumbass.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what it goes. And Jonathan Harker is like, I don't know, why? Eat. Basically, all he says to him. Okay, the Jonathan Harker comes up just like in the Dracula and cuts himself because somehow it's so hard to cut bread with a knife. But
Right.
so
Right. Right.
they cut
A butter knife at that.
with a butter knife, yeah. So he cuts himself on the hand. Oh, yeah, whatever. Yeah, he's like really trying to cut this bread with his knife, but all of a sudden he just okay. So this is like not even hard. Norm European normal bread. You can easily cut that with a fucking butter knife. No,
Yeah.
but so he can't cut this bread. No, but easily just cuts his hand. So
Yeah. Jackass. Yeah.
the Count Orlok, looks at him like, look, because he sees blood or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a reoccurring theme with all the Dracula films and the Nosferatu film. The scene happens in every one of them.
Mm.
Although I think there was the Nosferatu movie that was the original, that was the silent film, and then there was one that was made later in the 70s, right? And in that one, I think it was like 70s. It was before I was born. I remember that. It might have been 79, actually. It might have been the year I was born. This scene is done very creepy in that film, even more creepy than this one, because he cuts his finger and he's like, oh, it's bleeding. And Count Orlok literally takes his hand and like sucks the blood off of his finger, and you're like, huh. And he doesn't do that in this movie.
Got all kind of a little bit, I think, creepy because you see in this, for some reason, Count Orlok is in the other side of the room, and you see him going straight at Jonathan. And
Yeah,
then Jonathan
yeah.
Harker just completely fucking terrified and just
As
jumps
anybody would be.
Yeah,
Yeah,
as good. Then it jumps Nina Hart, taking a walk with her back in Visburg, huh?
yeah,
The non-existent German.
right.
And they're talking about something don't really care about. And then Jonathan Harker wakes up, not really a room or whatever. It's just like
Yeah,
this old running down. And then he gets up walking through the castle, walking through the
yeah.
runways. And you also see that he has a kind of bite marks on his neck. So at this point, Count Orlok had a fed on him.
Right.
And this is also where it kind of establishes the difference between Nosferatu and Dracula.
Mhm.
Because Nosferatu also brought in the concept of you don't become a vampire if you get bit by one. There has to be some kind of
Yeah.
blood transfusion or whatever. Because usually the majority of vampire stories are put up in Dracula. If you get bit by a vampire and then die, or if the vampire fully drains you, you will come back as a.
Right.
That doesn't happen in Nosferatu. In Nosferatu,
Right.
if you get bit by a vampire, you'll just get up. Basically, you have a strong of the. When you become a vampire, there has to be some kind of blood transfusion shit going.
I can't remember exactly what it was because
Yep.
I don't think you ever see Nosferatu. You never see Nosferatu turn anybody into a vampire. You just see him make people really sick, right? So that was never brought into the Nosferatu story. So he
Yeah,
bites people, he drinks their blood, and that makes them really, really weak and sick. That was
yeah,
always Nosferatu.
yeah. So that is kind of exactly because the only other vampire you see in the story is the vampire that's
Yeah,
Jesse's kill in this old village. That's like the only
yeah,
vampire outside of Count Orlok that you see in this.
right.
So then directly after the beat, the nice walk on the stuff, it cuts directly back to the next night where you see this kind of exchange going on between Jonathan Hart, Count Orlok.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, I think I kind of mixed something up because I have written down here that this is the scene where Jonathan Harker shows Count Orlok the kind of necklace he has, where it's a picture of his.
Yeah, you're right. That's this scene. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
That's this scene.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, like you have like the Jonathan Harker, and Count Orlok having like this discussion. Jonathan Harker just gave Count Orlok his necklace, and Count Orlok is looking over like some either some super old horny old guy or some young 15-year-old guy with his on his telephone with OnlyFans.
My gosh, hey, I didn't think about it that way, but that's basically what this is. Yeah,
That's why he's looking at it like.
just a dirty old man. This guy has not just not had enough blood to keep himself sustained for all this time, but he's also had no female company whatsoever.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's just then you have like this scene where it cuts where you see that the entire room and Count Orlok stands up, and then you just like see like how fucking huge he is. I mean,
Yeah,
Bill
he's a
Skarsgård is a fucking
gigantic guy.
he's huge. I mean, I think we are even small compared to him. I think.
Oh,
Huh?
yeah. No, no,
Yeah.
this is definitely the tallest Count Orlok we've ever got.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
He's
Yes.
huge. He's huge. So Bill Skarsgård is, I think he's around like 6'3" or something like that. But I was looking it up, they added boots to the character, like
So
stiletto
yeah.
boots that you can't see because he's wearing a robe that make him about 5 inches taller. So he's
I thought it was tough, but if he's 6'3", he's pretty much our height.
I can't remember. It's tough to gauge by movies, right? But I read that he was 6'3", like
Oh
that's
my
his
god.
actual height. So he's our height.
They have like Jonathan Harker. They get all the paper shit done, and Count Orlok gets up, walks out the room, and he says, "Oh, now you have to stay here," and blah blah blah. And Jonathan's like, "No, but I'm sick. I have to get back to my wife." He goes, "No, you're staying here." Let's go. Shut the fuck up, idiot. You're staying here. You're sick. Yeah,
And you will not speak of it again. By the
don't
way,
speak of it again.
his accent in this film is spot on. Like
Yeah,
this is about as dirty Romanian as you can get. Like old
yeah.
school, grouchy sounding Romanian accent. It really, really well done. Like he had to study up for this part. Had to.
Yeah, and this is like the part where I have to say this movie, in my opinion, I think does it better than the original Dracula because shortly after that, Jonathan Harker wakes up. Somehow in his room again, he has like the bite marks on his chest. I'm not entirely sure if this is the scene where you see Count Orlok feeding off of Jonathan Harker or not. Not entirely sure. That eventually happens. However, he's running around now during the day, trying to figure a way out of this fucking castle, but
Right.
can't find a way because everything's locked down. No? So then he tries to open up this one door, finally manages to open it up, and it goes down like these steps, no? Into some kind of, tomb or whatever. This actually looks super cool. I do not know what castle they made this at, no? But
But it's a real castle.
it's a real castle. You have like these tombs or whatever. It's super awesome. And he's running around this dark tomb with shock on his face. You clearly see at the end of the room this coffin.
Right.
Obviously, that's probably Count Orlok's coffin.
Very ornate coffin too, by the way. Like very ornate coffin too, by the way, because it's like extremely it's carved. It's like hand carved. Hang on, my mom's phone is like going off. Okay, there we go. It's like hand carved. It looks like sigils that are carved into the coffin, then it's inlaid with stone. So this is like a really nice ornate coffin.
Exactly. And a coffin with a pentagram element. I'm not sure how far pentagrams what meaning they were in Nosferatu. I'm not sure if that was even in the original movie.
Well, it's no, there were no pentagrams in the original movie. But there was no like real symbolism used in the original film.
No, because
And even in this one, like when you see his familiar like naked on the ground with the book at the beginning of the film, he's sitting in the middle of what looks like it's not a pentagram, it's some other design.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what the design is, but it's an earlier take on the pentagram. Whatever at the time was used to explain witchcraft, basically, was what that symbol was. But this is the first time you see a pentagram. Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, because actually, people know that the pentagram was actually a symbol used to fend off evil spirits. But
Yeah. Well,
then you have like,
there's a lot of symbolism behind the pentagram. What's funny is that this would not be historically accurate because the pentagram didn't even come into existence as what it is, at least as we know it, until the 19th century. Because it was a symbol for Pan, which is, you know who Pan is, right?
yes.
So, and he has a goat's head.
Was an evil spirit. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And so that didn't really come around until much later. So a pentagram would not have been used here, if I'm correct. Somebody who's probably a little bit more historically sound than me can probably correct me, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. Anyway.
Maybe. I mean, I just, as far as I know, that in old folk tales, the pentagram was used as a symbol to fend off evil spirits or monsters.
If it's got a circle around it, then it's a protective symbol. Yeah.
But I'm not entirely sure how. However, you have like Jonathan Harker, opens up the coffin, and then you see like the first, the first scene where Count Orlok is just laying in his coffin, obviously sleeping. No, then Jonathan Harker gets back and takes a Maddock, wanting to probably just ram it into his chest. And this is like just in the moment when the sun goes down, because right in the moment where Jonathan Harker almost hits him in the chest, exactly.
Count Orlok grabs the pickaxe, throws it away, and stands up. And this is where you get a full kind of view of how tall this dude actually is and what he actually looks like underneath the robes. Because he is a rotting corpse, like disgusting looking.
Yeah, and then of course, then Jonathan Harker just runs out of the tomb and closes the door, trying to get away. No, and then the next scene's cut kind of between Nina Harker and the situation going on in the in Dracula's castle. No, because at this point it's nighttime again, and Count Orlok somehow forced Jonathan Harker back into his bed. No, and is walking towards him, standing up to him, and it kind of even Jonathan Harker. No, he sees like this kind of mix between. First, he sees Count Orlok, then his wife, and it kind of goes between all that. And then you see him, of course, Count Orlok now just picking up Jonathan Harker and then feeding off of him. Then you have like this one picture where you have like Nina Harker, blood coming out of her eyes, of her mouth. No.
Yeah.
And then it goes shots back to a scene where you see Jonathan the Harker laying on the floor and Count Orlok feeding off of him. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. That
So
kind
this,
of thing is
what it's showing is that they're showing the effect that he's having on her even from this distance, like
exactly
how he's playing with her mind and kind of distorting how she sees things and causing her to have convulsions during the night. And this is really starting to bother the people she's staying with too, which we get into a little bit later.
Yeah, because this is because right after the scene where Count Orlok is feeding up with Jonathan Harker, it cuts back to the house of Friedrich, where Nina Harker was sleeping, and clearly she's sleepwalking, just real crazy shit. And you have like this doctor that played the father of the family in The Witch.
In The Witch, yeah.
Kind of trying to figure out what's wrong with her, saying like, he's basically saying she's
Yeah,
But
she's crazy, right?
yeah, but then he says, "Is there anything to calm her down?" So he decides to give her more drugs, morphium, I guess, is at this point because I think that's what they mainly used at the time. No,
Yep. Is
because
mostly morphine, yeah.
they didn't have much painkillers either than morphine. No.
No.
Okay, then Jonathan Harker, kind of, just gets back up and it's day again. Count Orlok is probably resting in his coffin. No. But instantly the dogs start to attack him. He's okay, fuck it. He just jumps out the window into the river.
Yeah.
Like, okay, if I see her, I'm gonna die. If I jump, I'm gonna die. So maybe I'll just jump into the river. Maybe I'll survive. Well,
Yeah.
it's not a dumb decision in his position, but
Yeah.
no.
Which that's also directly taken from Dracula, by the way. Like I don't
That's how yes.
so in the original Nosferatu and the remake, he escapes the castle another way, but in the Dracula story, he jumps out of the window. So this is also taken from Dracula.
Exactly. To just say
You thief! You thief! Robert Eggers, you're a thief and you're a copycat.
I mean,
Okay.
I guarantee you, when Robert Eggers was making this movie, he probably didn't give a shit because he knew Nosferatu
No.
was a Dracula ripoff. So why the fuck not? That's probably what
Yeah,
he thought
it's a
when he was
compilation of both. Yeah, I'm fine with it. I mean,
Yep.
whatever.
However, yeah. And then, of course, after Jonathan Harker jumps into the river, it cuts back to this book. No? And Nina Harker is kind of having this discussion with Friedrich and his wife. And you can clearly see that Friedrich is losing his patience. No? Not necessarily because I never really thought that this Friedrich was a bad guy. He seems to be a
No,
pretty
he's
good
not.
guy overall.
Yeah.
But you can clearly see like he's losing his patience because basically only causing him issues. But of course, she's also his friend and the wife of his best friend, so he
Yeah.
doesn't want to kick her out. So he just
Yeah, he's also
can't-
extremely frustrated because he's a notable doctor that's very competent in the way that he does things. And you get that when you meet him at first. He's extremely frustrated because he cannot diagnose her. He's like, I do not know what this is. I've never seen it before. And he's kind of doubting his ability as a doctor at this point.
I mean, Friedrich is a doctor. I think you're mixing something up, Matt.
He's not a doctor?
No, he's a business. He's a trader. He trades with ship tradesmen or whatever.
Maybe I'm confusing it with Dracula myself then, because the guy that was originally working on her was a doctor and then they had to call in Van Helsing. That's what I'm
now because the thing
messing
is
up.
because
Yeah.
they have like this one doctor. That's what you're talking about exactly. No?
Yeah.
But
Yeah. So I'm confusing Dracula with those.
exactly. Friedrich is just, he wants to take care of her because she's his friend and she's married to his best friend or whatever. And but he has wife and he has kids at home that he has to take care of. No, he had all these expenses through the doctor he's caring for. And you can clearly see out of them, the money is not really his issue with it. No.
Yeah.
It's just the entire situation. You can clearly see it's a little bit too much for him. No.
Yeah.
Right. At this point, kind of acting like literally kind of a dick towards Nina, but
yeah, it is what it
I
is,
can
dude.
understand the situation. However, he walks off having kind of a discussion with his wife. Then they shortly start to make out, because she kind of calms him down and talks him back into it. And he's like, yeah, you're right, babe, whatever. Then they start kissing, and then Nina Harker has another seizure. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It cuts directly back to this doctor. Where exactly where I'm coming and right here. And he's still just like you said, no? He's still frustrated because he cannot diagnose or has no fucking idea what's going on. No? And then it's clear at this point, somehow Renfield got arrested because he was eating animals on a cemetery somewhere. Eating them, yeah. And
walking for a midnight snack in the cemetery.
Yeah. And we have like this one guy, this warden that works at the asylum wherever he is, talking to the doctor, and is like, "Hey, you gotta check this out." He says, "Why?" He's just one guy, and he's like, "I'm sorry, but this guy is so fucking nuts. We can't handle him. He's attacked multiple other guys. This guy is a total fucking wacko. We can't handle him." So we have like the doctor going down. And then you have like the typical Renfield Dracula scene where Renfield is rambling on something about like, my lord, my blah blah blah.
And this is so Dracula too.
He's petting this nice bird. He's like right in the middle of petting this nice bird. You can see like multiple dead rats that he's eaten or whatever. No?
Yeah.
He just bites off the fucking head of that. And God damn it! I mean, you might be.
It's
able
a
to do
tough
that
scene to watch. It's a tough scene to watch.
It's a tough scene to watch.
I can stand human beings being disemboweled and like beaten to death and bloodied, but like once you start hurting animals, I'm just like, oh no, no, no. And I don't know why. Like when I was watching the movie at first, I was like, please tell me he's not going to bite this thing's head off. Please tell me he's not going to bite this. And then he does it. And it's right in front of the camera. And you're just like, ah,
Yeah, I felt the same way. Yeah,
yeah,
however, then Renfield just turns around and starts rambling on this, oh my lord, he is forever, he is eternity, and blah blah, and stupid shit with blood dripping
yeah,
all over his face. Then
yeah.
he attacks the doctor. Now, it's just like this is like it just reminds me of a sissy fight. I'm sorry, because you have like him on the doctor, and I don't know, you have like this worm just slapping him on the stomach with I don't know.
Yeah. Stop it, Jew. Stop it.
Yeah. So yeah, so then after that, obviously the doctor gets out on the hard stuff. And after that, it cuts directly back to Nina Harper that's having a seizure again, no? And Friedrich is now with this doctor, no? Talking about, what the fuck is going on with her. And yeah, you're a fucking doctor, you're a specialist. I'm paying you guy a fucking fortune. Now finally figure out what the hell is wrong with her. No? Because obviously, his motives are very clear. He wants to have the house back only to him and his wife and his kids. That's understandable. But he's not
Right.
that much of a dick to just kick her out. And he's helped them financially anyway. But this still kind of actually what makes me like the character. Because even though you have there's a lot of people I guarantee you that would just fucking put her in the hospital somewhere.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. He'd be like, when
Yeah.
can you take her out of my hands? Yeah.
Yeah, but even that, it's just like he doesn't do that, no. And even
Yeah.
at the point, the most people, even at this point, when it would come down to the money, they would like fuck this shit, no. But no, he
Yeah.
still says. I think there's even more cash to where he screams at other people that he's paid a fortune or whatever, no. But he's never angry that he had to pay this so much fucking money.
Yeah.
He's just fucking pissed that he's paid all of this money and nobody's able to help her, no. Whatever.
Right. He's
No?
not a bad guy. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They,
Which, by the way, is this not the same actor who played Kick-Ass?
it's
That's what I
Kick-Ass.
thought. I
Yeah,
knew
it's
I'd seen him
Kick-Ass. This
somewhere.
is Kick-Ass,
Same
yeah.
actor. Okay.
Yeah, this is
Okay.
the actor that played Kick-Ass. He also played Quicksilver, no? In
Yep.
Avengers, and he played Craven.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
Okay.
next few scenes is kind of just a jump back between Jonathan Harker that has now been found by a group of people, not gypsies, it's some kind of monks or nuns, I guess.
Nuns. Yeah, it's a
And
convent.
yeah, it's a comment exactly. It jumps between that and Friedrich and the doctor having the discussion, not of what actually to do, no? And the situation is like this doctor is like, you know what? I have no fucking idea what I can do. He's like, I'm totally fucking this is totally over my head, but
Yeah.
I might know a guy. No?
He's
And
very hesitant to mention this doctor too. I love
yeah,
this part
yeah,
because he's a doctor and he's very big on science and like the mind and all that kind of stuff. So for him to have to mention this guy, he's almost a little shameful. You
yeah,
notice
yeah,
that? He's like,
yeah.
I don't really want to do this, but I really don't know anything else to do at this point. I have this guy who's a brilliant, he talks him up for a minute. He's like, I got this guy who's a brilliant person in his field. And he was top at the university. He taught me. He's a great guy. And the other guy's like, well, get him here, get him here. And he's like, well, I don't really want to like, I don't, it's almost like he doesn't want anybody to tell anyone that he's asking this doctor to come over because he's embarrassed because he got kicked out of the university for alchemy.
Yeah. For alchemy
Yeah.
and occult things he believed in. No. And okay, then but you still kind of in this need to have this thing going on because now it jumps automatically back to Jonathan Harker with the nuns. Because he instantly gets up and I have to get back to my wife and blah blah blah. And they're like, no, you have to stay here because Count Orlok's effect is still over you or whatever. But
Right.
they're basically just trying they're more concerned with his health, no? Because at this point he's also hallucinating, just completely fucking out of his mind, no? And then it cuts back now to the Demeter, no? The ship where Dracula
Demeter, not the Demeter.
the Demeter, not the Demeter.
The Demeter, not the Demeter.
The Demeter, not the Demeter, no?
Yeah.
Then you have it shows you like this big box, where obviously Count Orlok is in, and it goes back to like these things that telepathically, Orlok is saying to Nina Harker, like, "Oh, I will be back with you soon. We will be one again," and blah blah blah. And then you see a zoom onto his ugly face laying in the coffin. Um, then it goes back to night, and this is kind of like where, of course, you have the Demeter scene where you have like all of the people on the ship are being killed one by one. No,
Yeah.
because Dracula needed all of them. Like this funny scene where Renfield is just set up in this chair, what looks like an electric chair, but it's not. No,
It's just holding his head in place and making him to where he
exactly.
can't move.
This is what is kind of confusing because this is like a few minutes of the movie. I mean, I can pretty much get clear with it, but this is very clearly a part of the movie where you have like it's jumping all over the place. No,
Yeah.
it's jumping. It jumped from Friedrich and the Doctor having a discussion to Renfield to the ship. Then Count Orlok saying, doing his ASMR thing with Nina Harker. And now it's jumping. Now they're back into I think it's Visburg again. And they're looking up to this doctor that the other doctor mentioned. No? And then they come into it. Then he's basically, they knock on his door and like, yeah, Van Helsing. I'm just calling him Van Helsing. I don't give a shit.
Van Helsing. Van Helsing. Yeah.
So then they knock on his door and he's like, no, fuck off.
Yeah. He's not into having company, this guy, at all.
I mean, I love William Dafoe. He's a great actor. I love him.
Oh, dude, Willem Dafoe's one of my favorites, man. That guy,
but
he's
even in this
crazy.
scene, he's like, just go fuck off. He doesn't even know who's off the door. Just get the fuck out of here.
Just fuck off.
And then he says his name. The doctor is his former suit. I'm like, okay, come in, dude. Come in.
Yeah. And this
then they come in
place is a wreck too. His house is a total wreck.
What?
His house is a total wreck. Like he looks like a professor that got kicked out of university and has just kind of like been in his house with his little books, like by himself for a long time.
Well, I mean, it's very chaotic, I would say. No, does definitely remind me of mine. But however, then they come in and he's just sitting in this chair, rambling something. I don't know. No. Then he sees the other doctor. He's happy to see him. Jumps up and hugs him. Oh yeah, cool, you're back or whatever. And then they have this kind of thing going back and forth, talking about the good old days and some discussion like that. Then of course he mentions here we have somebody that needs your help. Then he goes back over to Friedrich, and Friedrich is standing there like entirely skeptical because he's this dude and he's like, what the fuck is this? Who the fuck is this guy?
Which anybody at this time would have been this way because the church had kind of its grip on everybody's belief. And so if you stepped outside of Christianity in any way, you were basically considered a heretic, right? At this time. So Friedrich is arguably skeptical about this whole thing because he feels like, okay, this guy could be evil. I mean, he's dealing with alchemy and stuff like that. And that was very much against which all alchemy was science. But the church was not seeing it that way at the time. So he's very hesitant to one, fear, and two, to trust this guy.
Yeah. However, of course. Yeah. You're right about that point, definitely. But this is also it's still a kind of a little bit confusing at this point because the plot is jumping now all over the place. You have a short scene where Jonathan Harker gets on a horse to get the fuck back home. Then you have another scene back on the Demeter where you clearly see people are getting sick because they just found the dead body. No?
Right.
Then directly where they found the dead body, a guy gets sick and pukes on the floor. And everybody's fucking terrified at this point. Panic is breaking out the ship. Now it jumps directly back to Friedrich's house. No? Where they're all walking in here now with Van Helsing. No? And Van Helsing sitting there like, why the fuck is he tied up? No? And then Friedrich is like, yeah, that's the only way I could stop her from like literally destroying everything.
Yeah, destroying the whole house. Right?
Yeah, and then Van Helsing's like, oh, I'm tied her up. She can't be bound down. Now then this is now at this point, she's not having seizure anymore. She's fucking sick. She at this time
yeah, she looks like she's dying. Yeah.
She looks like she's fucking sick as hell dying. No?
Yeah.
Of course, Van Helsing sits down and is having to talk with her, what's going on, and blah, blah, blah. Right. And she's basically telling him about, everything she's seen in her mind or whatever. Yeah, that's pretty much so far everything that's happening.
Is this the scene where we get the acting from her, Lily Rose Depp's character, where she's trying to explain what's going on with her herself and her eyes roll into the back of her head? Like this
happening now. Yeah.
This whole scene, man, they I went back and looked because it felt very ad-libbed for the movie to me, right? And so I went back and looked, and it wasn't actually ad-libbed, but her facial expressions and everything she does in this scene is just she embodied the character as best she could, and this is what she thought the character would look like as she was explaining it. And it adds this level of creepiness to the performance that's just so fucking on point, dude.
But they've been see, but they've been seeing this room for quite some time now because it
Yeah,
was day when they came in. Now it's night.
yeah,
There's one scene where her eyes turn over kind of white, and Van Helsing is like, "Yeah, she's not here anymore." And to prove it, he takes a fucking needle and just sticks it through her fucking hand. Everybody's like in shock or whatever. And you're like,
she doesn't feel it.
"Yeah, it'll be fine." Just throws the needle away. Yeah, just sticks the needle through her hand. Like, "Whoop, it'll be fine."
These people are completely freaked out at this point, man.
Yeah, it's just really like it's a normal Tuesday.
Yeah, needle through the hand.
Yeah,
Not a big
however, okay, then Van Helsing is like checking her out and doing all these things, and she's starting to have a seizure now, and he's talking to her, and now this is the scene where you're talking about, where this is like kind of it reminds you a little bit of The Exorcist. No,
Yeah,
she's like doing Lily Rose Depp her thing, and he's basically chanting some "Oh, get away from here, devil," blah 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 or whatever.
yeah,
No? And yeah, she's totally like freaking out, going over her head or whatever. And then you can clearly see her speaking like this with this demonic voice. It's obviously probably Count Orlok
yeah.
somehow affecting
Speaking
her.
through her. Yeah,
Yeah, and
great
she's
scene.
saying this
Great
thing,
scene.
and she instantly just falls back down and is having a seizure again. And it's just like, and then Hilding is on top of her, just trying to sedate her, get everything out. And now, then when everything calms down, they're like having a discussion with what's wrong with her.
Yeah,
And the Van Helsing is basically telling them like this shit is not normal. This is clearly
yeah,
something supernatural. It's not a part of the natural world. It's
yeah,
some kind of demon, no, or some kind of thing that's taken a hold of her.
yeah,
And that demon usually take a hold of somebody, of a person that has more animalistic feelings towards them. No,
right.
not really saying it in any kind of a negative way. Just like
Yeah,
yeah, that
yeah.
usually
She's a highly sexual person, so that's why he's taking control of her. Yeah,
exactly. No, so this is basically all that happens in the scene. Now that they're talking about that Van Helsing is basically telling them what's going on. There's some kind of demonic possession shit going on here.
yeah.
No, then it jumps now directly back to the Demeter. No, where they're now throwing another body overboard.
Body off the
No?
edge. Yeah,
Yeah, they're talking around like, oh, hopefully this shit is going to end soon or whatever. No. And probably at this point, there's already multiple people on the ship suspecting that there's some kind of monster on it or whatever.
yeah,
Because you can see like one of these guys, he's opening up the deck, no, and
yeah.
is going towards the box where Count Orlok is in. No.
Right.
Obviously, because he assumes that that's where it's coming from.
Yeah,
Well, by the way, considering the fact
this whole thing is also taken from Dracula because in the original Nosferatu, you don't get this much time on the ship, which is great. A lot of Dracula fans, me included, really love the time on the Demeter because it is extremely creepy. And to see the deaths of all these people and the way that the people on the ship react to what's going on is something completely specific to Dracula. It's not something you get from Nosferatu. But I'm very appreciative that he put it in the film, and they do it really well.
have you not seen the what's called the flight
The
of the
last
Demeter?
voyage of the Demeter, yeah,
I haven't seen
great
that movie
movie,
yet. No?
dude. It's great. It's great. You'll love it. It's great. The whole movie is just the time on the ship,
I
and
know. I know.
they
I
do a
know.
brilliant job. Brilliant movie. I loved it.
Yeah. Now, however, yeah, because we have this guy going down wanting to kill Count Orlok. What is like the dumbest decision you can make? If you're this is a time where people were very superstitious. Yeah.
Yeah,
And if you know something evil is happening in the night, the last thing I would do is do it
just
during the
go
night.
down into the ship.
But
Yeah,
no. However, this
yeah,
guy opens up the coffin and it's the rat coming out of it. No. And then Count Orlok, just grabs the guy from behind and okay, obviously this guy's fucked. No.
yeah,
And now it just instantly jumps back to Renfield. No, he's laying on
yeah,
the floor, babbling some shit. No, the one of the wardens comes to check him out. No, and he
yeah,
kills the warden, bites him directly in the neck.
yeah.
No, this is the scene where what's his name? Renfield. No, escapes and is running through the city like a madman. And equally at the same time, the Demeter finally arrives now in this
Horde.
no?
Yeah,
Yeah, with everybody on the ship
dead.
just fucking dead. No? Hark. Oh God, this movie really jumps back and forth. I
It
mean,
does. It does it a lot. That's why I was like, I didn't really get to watch this as closely as I wanted to, so I'm gonna let Mike do this one because maybe he'll catch more than I did. It does. It
yeah,
jumps around a lot.
I rarely have to write movies down, but this is clearly one of it. Just because if you don't want to forget anything, it just jumps randomly. Because this is
Yeah.
also a section of the movie where it randomly jumps. You see, like the ship, no? Uh, finally arriving in Visborg, then all of a sudden, Nina Harvey's like, he's here, and just runs outside. First, you think it's Count Orlick, but no, it's
Right.
actually Jonathan Harker, no? That's finally came back somehow, no?
Right.
And he comes back and instantly is just sick and falls off his horse. So, of course, obviously, they take him back in. He's total fucking sick with the flu, can't even walk, he's not even conscious, no? And Craven is like, oh, what the fuck shit is going on here? Somebody knocks on the door, and he's totally
This
fucking
poor
pissed,
guy.
no?
This
Yeah,
fucking poor guy, man.
yeah. He's walking out the door like, 2 o'clock in the morning, fucking asshole, has opened up the door, no? Yeah, so then they knock on the door, and there's like, yeah, one of your ships just came back or whatever, no? Then Friedrich, no, together with I think his people, go to the dock, and then I see like this ship just ran right into the dock, is totally fucking destroyed, and you have
Yeah.
rats, no, going out
Everywhere.
everywhere. They're like,
Yeah.
okay, fucking shit, now the plague is here, now because rats at that
Exactly
time
what
were
they
fighting the
think
plague
too. Yeah.
because rats were one of the carriers of the plague.
Right.
And you see, like, at this point, Renfield already put Dracula, no, onto the ship and is going towards the mansion he bought. Like, oh, Lord, we're finally here, and blah, blah, blah. No?
Yeah.
So then it cuts back to now, like, Count Orlok having, like, a discussion with Renfield. Because Count
Mhm.
Orlok is now like, oh, now I'm here. Now I have to go get my chick or whatever. And then
Right.
Renfield's
Right.
like, oh, no, get her for it. He's like, no, she has to come here by myself. And then Renfield is crawling on the floor like some total fucking weirdo. Like, it's just like, I mean, it's like this
This
guy is,
guy's he's fucking bonkers.
he's
I
bonkers
love I
totally. It's
love
just
the
like,
character though. He
it is.
played him just absolutely insane for this film.
Yeah,
It
this is,
adds so
I have
much.
to say, this is one of the most insane interpretations of Renfield I've
Yeah,
ever seen in
absolutely.
any movie. Renfield and Count Orlok have this discussion going on because Count Orlok says she has to come with me willingly and blah, blah, blah. And Renfield pushes her. So Count Orlok just punches Renfield in the face. He falls over and Renfield is begging him about something. I don't fully remember what just that Count Orlok.
There were all these promises. There were all these promises that he was made that he would get if he became the familiar for Count Orlok. And so he's begging to be a part of whatever Count Orlok's doing, but Count Orlok just used him. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's what that's about.
Yeah. So then it comes back now to a daytime, and rats are running through the city. No, and this is like I don't know. Probably back in the day during the plague, this was probably a big issue. But you've
Oh.
never seen so much rats run through a city. No.
Yeah,
All
so
that.
there's a cool point I wanted to bring up. So a lot of people when they saw this, there was a lot of discussion about, oh my God, there's a shit ton of rats in this movie, right? And so a lot of people thought that it was CGI, but it wasn't. So use of live rats, approximately 2,000 live rats were used during production to enhance the film's authenticity. So these are actual rats. These are real rats that you're seeing running around through the streets and everywhere. They just filled the set with rats. Like, fuck, okay. I just thought that was cool. Like that's devotion to film right there. If you're going to use 2,000 live rats, that's cool. I thought that was neat.
Yeah, it is cool. No. Yeah. Yeah, because it's just like I mean, it's kind of the thing where I think I did not really think about how they done that if it was CGI or real rats or whatever. But it's
Yeah, it
just like
was real.
how how to get all those fucking rats. I don't know. I mean,
You would have to do a closed set to where there was no way in and out, but they would if it's 2,000 of them, some of the scenes that you see these rats in, they're just piled on top of each other all over the place. And so if they use 2,000, I imagine they had some type of device where they would pick up the rats and move them to the next scene where they had to use them. So they're just constantly shuffling rats around the set for each scene.
but this
Like
is
talk
it's
about a
crazy
shitload
because
of work.
rats are really not really much very dangerous. I don't think you need much for handling with them. They're probably
Yeah.
just some rats that got in the throat. They're probably I'm not sure. they probably got them from some animal testing thing because
Yeah.
mice and rats is what they use
Yeah.
pharmacy on. They probably got them from that somehow, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a shit
However,
ton of rats. Yeah.
yeah. However, because then the scene is basically jumping back between Van Helsing and Nina Harker, because now that Jonathan Harker is back, Friedrich that basically wants him to leave his house. I think this might come a little bit later, now where Friedrich basically kicked them out.
I think so, yeah.
However, then it jumps back to Van Helsing and the other doctor, because now they have now dead bodies are popping up everywhere, drained of blood.
Mhm.
And also several people are falling down to this plague. So
Right.
it's not really clear what is happening. So, of course, they think the plague is back, but Van Helsing is convinced at this point, pretty much what it is, it's a vampire. And this is where the name, I think, Nosferatu is dropped the first time, because in the original movie of the story, Nosferatu was never the name of Count Orlok. Nosferatu is what vampires are called in this movie. No? So this is kind of where
Did we ever figure out what that actually means too? I never looked it up, but I know it's Latin. I just don't know. I think it's Latin for like undead or living dead or something like that. I'll have to look it up later, but I don't know. It's an interesting name.
It is. Well, why not? We could just do it.
Yeah, go ahead and look it up. I don't have the ability to because I'm just sitting out here with barely any internet.
Okay. Now, what does Nosferatu mean? No. So potentially, Nosferatu means troublesome. Okay. So basically, it's a Romanian word actually, and is potentially.
Yeah, I'm back. It looks like we
okay,
lost connection for a minute.
Yeah,
It's
we're
okay.
gone. Nosferatu, primarily means vampire. That's from Romanian. Now, however,
Okay.
it was used in that movie. But it's a Romanian word that was potentially derived from Nesferuet, which means troublesome, unbearable, or offensive.
Okay.
Bram Stoker's Dracula, where it suggested the word translates to not death through Emily Garrett claimed. Okay, so basically, it's kind of not real. There's multiple things you can read here, but a lot of people say at least it's kind of like just another word for vampire. Yeah. So yeah. So then you have like this thing going on, and Van Helsing at this point is kind of aware that it's a vampire now. Now that he's dealing with a vampire. Then you have like Count Orlok, the scene where he's over the city, and this is where you have like the first, kind of vampire ability that is very specific to Nosferatu. Because even though compared to Dracula, Nosferatu was not a shapeshifter, because Dracula shapeshifts into multiple things. He could shape into mist, into a wolf, into a werewolf, into rats, into bats, or whatever.
Right.
And that's how Dracula could get very fast from one point to
From
another.
point A to point B. Yeah.
Exactly. And Nosferatu just kind of used his shadow. He basically used his shadow to reach somewhere and then basically just teleported there. And that's what he also does here. And I think he reaches out to Nina Harker to kind of see what's going on. And then it instantly goes back to Nina Harker because she's noticing that something's going on. And she goes back to her friend, saying, "No, I can't sleep," or whatever. Can we basically just share a bed tonight? And then she's like, "Yeah, okay, fine, whatever." And then Nina Harker with her best friend, just are kind of talking, going on, and then they go to bed. And then you have a discussion going on between Friedrich, Doctor, and Van Helsing. And this is also this is kind of where Friedrich is. You can see he's just clearly fucking frustrated out of the hell because Van Helsing is just talking some random shit about demons, vampires.
He gets carried away a lot. I imagine this is probably what got him kicked out of the university because he believes in this stuff so much and he's really passionate about it. And he starts spouting this crazy stuff that everybody's like, "Oh, dude, what the fuck are you talking about? This is not science you're doing." Yeah.
And then Friedrich is like, "What the fuck are you talking about, you idiot?" or blah blah blah. No.
Yeah.
And this is okay, like Van Helsing is doing his thing, rambling on or whatever. And then he walks up to him. I don't remember what he says something, but this is the scene where you see like William Dafoe writes wide into the camera, is looking into the camera and says, "I know what we're dealing with. It's Nosferatu."
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it jumps directly back to Nina Harker and her friends that, basically eventually they managed to go to sleep.
Yeah.
But Nina Harker again is now awake, probably woke up by Count Orlok. And if I remember it correctly, this is the scene where Count Orlok shows up and has kind of like a short discussion with
Yeah.
Nina Harker. Yeah,
This is that scene.
exactly. Yeah, because her friend is in the bedroom, no, on the bed sleeping, and then all of a sudden Count Orlok appears in the room and is having the discussion with her. No, and the discussion is basically Count Orlok being, "You're mine, you're mine, you're mine." He's like,
Yeah,
"No, I'm married, I'm married. No, you're mine.
but
No, you're mine.
it's
I'm
interesting
married."
because he's really trying because he can't force her to go with him. So he has to convince her in some way. And she's
Yeah.
not being convinced at all. She's like, "No, I'm married. Fuck off." And he's like, "No, you're mine. You're coming with me. No, I'm married. Fuck off." And it keeps going back and forth. And you get the idea that Count Orlok is getting very like frustrated by this whole thing. Like he's extremely frustrated. So then
Yeah.
he kind of makes a deal with her, which is cool. Which I don't remember
Yeah,
this
no, he
from
does.
the original Nosferatu. This is something new.
No, he does not really make a deal with her. That's not what he does. He basically comes up and tells her, "I'll give you 3 nights." No?
Yeah.
And after 3 nights, basically, you will be mine.
Okay.
That's basically what
Yeah.
it comes down to. Yeah.
Which
And
is
this
his downfall. He should not have given her 3 nights. That was a mistake.
Oh yeah, that's kind of, yeah, basically, yeah. You're right about that. That clearly is the mistake he made.
Yeah.
His downfall. And they have like this big discussion going on, and he's kind of in her head. This is the thing where he's leaning over, and then he kind of tries to kiss her, no? And
Yeah.
she pulls back on him, and he's like now totally fucking pissed off, rambling, typical
All
monster
sorts of
villain
crazy shit.
stuff. Yeah, yeah.
No.
Where he basically drops the bomb. You have 3 more nights, then you will be mine, and every people you love
Yeah.
will be dead, or whatever. And yeah, this is definitely. By the way, guys, take notes. This is definitely how you win a woman's heart. No, just tell her in 3 nights you'll be mine, and everybody you love
It's
will be dead.
that confidence that women love, you know?
Yes, absolutely. Just like hey, babe, go up to a girl in the bar and say, "Hey, baby, you just come with me, we'll be fine. Everybody knows it's going to be dead in 3 days, but you'll be happy with me." That's how you pick up girls.
That's how you do it.
Okay, that's pretty much the end of this scene. Then
Yeah.
you see like shit is really going down now in the city. You have like a woman screaming, then walking through this hospital. Left and right, people are coming in, dead. Because the thing with the plague is getting worse and worse and worse. One, of course,
Yeah.
spread through the rats, and then the other people spread, of course, through Count Orlok.
You kind of get the feeling. I don't know if you got this from this. It wasn't in the original Nosferatu, and I'm not really sure I'm seeing it correctly, but it almost feels like he's able to feed off of people through the rats, even though you don't see it. Did you get that feeling? Because he doesn't really leave a whole lot where he's at, but the rats are everywhere, and they're assuming that the rats are causing the illnesses and the death. I think he's feeding on people through the rats, if that's
I'm
possible.
not sure about. I'm not sure about that if he's feeding up the people through the rats, but it might be possible. I don't know.
I mean, it's not said, but you kind of get that feeling because he doesn't leave, but the rats are everywhere. So
Yeah.
it is the plague, but he's feeding on the people through the rats. Could be, I don't know, interpretation.
Would be. That is something that happens in vampire stories,
Yeah.
specifically
Yeah.
powerful vampires. But I don't know. I mean, not sure. However, when Count Orlok visited Nina in this night, no, he apparently feeded off of her friend because she's sick now, and she's like
Right.
totally fucking
Yeah.
apeshit. Yeah? And this is where Friedrich just entirely just you can see it's too much for him. He just
He
starts
loses it.
working out, has a discussion with
Yeah.
Nina Harker. And this is where he basically just kicks them out. No?
So get the
And
fuck out.
yeah, he kicked them out of the house at this point. No? Because it's kind of
Wait,
like,
at this point, I can understand it though. You know what I mean? At this point, I can understand it because before it just disrupted your life and cost you money, but now it's made his wife sick. So he has no choice but to kick them out. I would have done the
actually,
same thing. I'd
his
have been
wife
like,
is
you
sick.
got to go, bro.
Yeah, I know. That's kind of the thing. This is also where I'm more on Friedrich's side than on Nina Harker's because
Yeah.
just like you said, his wife is sick now. He has to take care of his wife. It's just
Yeah.
too much going on for him. Her husband is back. No?
Yeah.
They both have an apartment.
Yeah. Go
So,
there.
it's not
Go
like-
there.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like they don't have anywhere to go to. These two have their own apartment.
Yeah.
Just go back home. It's quite understandable what Friedrich
I would have
is
done the
doing
same.
at this point. Yeah, just go back to your own house. I have to take care of my wife. No, but this is also where Nina Harker. I would say she's getting a little bit hysterical at this point.
Yeah.
No, But
Yeah.
however, so then it jumps straight back to the asylum where Renfield was. And not Renfield, Van Helsing is looking through the walls and seeing all of this crazy shit on it. And he's like, why did nobody tell me this? And he's like, oh,
Right.
well, we thought it had no meaning. No? And it's like, oh, yeah, how could this possibly have a meaning? No? You have like, you have like, clearly at this point, even that other doctor knows something not entirely natural is going on. You had like
Yeah.
this one guy that has been rambling about his immortal lord coming to visit us all. You
Yeah.
might not think the crazy shit he scratched into his wall might have some meaning connected to it. This is like, yeah, I mean, great. This officially earns this guy the name Dr. Dumbass.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so this is so then it cuts back to Jonathan and Nina Harker, no, are now going back home. They have their stuff, their packages, all, and Nina Harker is carrying way more than Jonathan because he's still sick. You can
Yeah.
say that he can barely walk, no,
Yeah.
and so they're basically just going back home to their apartment, and you can see left and right how the entire city is just fucking havoc everywhere.
Yeah.
No,
It's
like
done. This city is obliterated, man.
yeah,
In a very, very
it's
short
real.
time.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's imaginable that the city has not burned down to the grounds. No, of course. And now Friedrich, the poor guy, no, to deal with more Van Helsing. Van Helsing rambling about the demons, devils, and vampires and shit, while his wife is sick in the
Yeah.
bedroom.
Very sick.
And
Dying, actually.
yeah, and he's of course he doesn't believe any of it, no. But he's basically
Which
like,
at this point, wouldn't you have to, you know?
well, yeah, well, I
I,
don't
I
know.
mean, at this point, you see all this stuff going on. You see that the two women are obviously under the control of something. It's not like they're just sick. Like it's obvious that they're under the control of something. He would have to believe it at this point, but he's still not buying any of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. At this point, I mean, the thing is, if you have rats and a disease going on, no, they're running through the entire city. I'm going to be honest, Matt. No, I'm not sure in that situation I would suspect anything supernatural. If everybody in the city is getting sick, you have rats going on at the time. People still
Yeah.
have the plague in their mind.
Yeah, maybe so.
I mean, I don't really. If you're not a superstitious person, you're still going to think this shit is all batshit crazy. No.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of how I take it, no? And this is kind of where Friedrich just kind of basically loses patience, and he kicks out Van Helsing and the doctor, no?
Yes.
Because they just said, "Leave me the fuck alone with this shit. I don't want to have anything to do with it. I have
Yeah.
to take care of my wife." No, exactly. Yeah. So then it cuts back to Jonathan and Nina Harker's apartment because he's still sick, recovering, and she's taking care of him. No. And this is more. Firstly, he actually kind of realizes what's going on because he's at least back to his senses,
Right.
and he's like, "Oh, I've seen the devil and this Count Orlok and whatever. He's fucking the devil or whatever." Not entirely wrong. No?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it says we have to do something because he's coming to this book and blah 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 or whatever. No. And this is the scene where Nina Harker says, no, he's unfortunately here. No? So this is where Nina Harker and Jonathan Harker have kind of argument going on because they're both like fucking out of their minds. The Count Orlok takes kind of possession over Nina, trying to get a kind of a dialogue between Nina and Jonathan Harker. No?
Yeah.
At the end,
This
doesn't
this
really
is
work.
this is something in the movie that a lot of people don't get. And I got questions about this from other people who saw the movie, and they were like, now, wait a minute. Does she really say these terrible things to him? Like she's taunting him and saying, you couldn't satisfy me the way that he did and all this other stuff. And you're thinking, how can she be this hard on this guy after everything he's been through? It's not actually her. It's him talking through her. A lot of people didn't get that. They were like, her character's absolutely insane. She's crazy and she's mean. I'm like, no, that's not her talking. That's actually Count Orlok speaking in her voice to him. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, because you see how this scene where you have like her eyes turn wide again, and
Yeah.
she has a scene going on. I understood what was going on, but I'm a huge vampire freak, so
Yeah, but a lot of other people wouldn't. Yeah.
yeah. But this is just like where Tegan crawls up to him and is basically just starts staring at him with the fuck me eyes. No?
Yeah. Yeah.
No? Okay. And then they start banging. Okay.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay. Why not?
they're kink shaming here, but
No, a little off-putting sex, yes.
yeah, it's a little bit off-putting. Yeah. So okay. I mean, they're a married couple. I mean, I haven't seen each
Whatever.
other for a while. I mean, still under the circumstances, might not be the best
Probably not
situation.
what I would be doing.
Yeah. So then you have like Van Helsing cuts back to Van Helsing going through his old occult books, no?
Yeah.
Reading stuff about the Nosferatu and basically how they can kill a Nosferatu, saying something like the Nosferatu and his chosen female lover or whatever, once they get together, it will free them of the curse of the Nosferatu. This is the point where it's strongly it's strongly different from the original Nosferatu story, no? Because Nosferatu wanted to be with her, but actually, this is what is kind of confusing about this version of the story. No, however, no. Then after that, it jumps directly back to Friedrich and his wife. No, you see like the shadow of Count Orlok coming out to Friedrich and don't wake up, so he's under some spell. No, then the
Yeah.
kids start screaming. No,
Yeah.
his wife gets up. No, runs towards the kids' room, and you see Count Orlok. Basically just killing the
Eating
kids.
the
No?
children, yeah.
Yeah, he ate the children, no? And now he's coming up towards Friedrich's wife. He's totally fucking terrified at him, no? And okay, obviously what's gonna happen, he's gonna kill her. I mean, there's no way she's making out of this alive.
Right.
No?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah,
Which
okay.
this
Well,
didn't happen in the original either. This is all just added stuff.
yes, this is that. This is
Yeah.
basically added stuff. It was added from Dracula, just it was altered because in the original Dracula story, Friedrich was a character that didn't exist, and Nina Harker's best friend was actually
Lucy.
turned into a vampire. Dracula turns her into a vampire.
Yeah.
No?
Lucy, right.
Yeah, basically. Lucy, exactly. That's her name.
Lucy, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah,
And
so
then they had
this-
they went into the crypt because they realized she was a vampire and cut her head off. So yeah, it completely changes from the Dracula story here. It veers off.
Exactly, because it jumps directly to you see like 3 coffins being carried to a cemetery, to a family tomb. It's obviously Friedrich's wife and their 2 kids. No,
Kids, yeah,
Friedrich obviously at this point is fucking pissed out of his mind. No,
done.
and then,
Yeah.
and then it jumps to Nina and Jonathan Harker. No, I understand them 2 being there because Friedrich is their friend. No, but at this point you should have left Van Helsing.
Yeah. I didn't get this part either. Like everybody's there that probably shouldn't be there.
Exactly.
I don't know why.
I mean, Jonathan Harker and Nina Harker, okay. I mean, Jonathan Harker is his best friend, so obviously, but this is just where, to a certain degree, you see Van Helsing doesn't really have much decency because obviously this guy was fucking pissed at you the last time you saw him, telling him something about demon the devil. Now his wife and his kids died, and somehow you think, oh, I'm going to show up to their burial.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
Make a
obviously.
whole lot of sense.
I mean, I think if Friedrich would have had a gun, these people would have been dead. But
Yeah, totally.
yeah.
Totally.
But however, of course, this is the scene where Jonathan Harker and they're trying to convince Friedrich, that it was a vampire that killed his wife and his kids. And Jonathan Harker then shows the marks on his chest that he was bitten by Count Orlok or whatever. At this point, this is where they actually convince Friedrich, that it was a vampire. He's kind of convinced now that something is going on. Then they're driving off in this wagon, having some kind of discussion. Friedrich is he's lost it at this point.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
So,
anybody would.
He's in grief or whatever, and he's obviously not mentally in the
Stable.
state to
Fight
be
back
reliable
anymore.
on anything. Because
Yeah.
at this point, everybody would be a fucking wrecking out of their mind.
Yeah.
So it's obviously so. They get out of the wagon, and Van Helsing and Nina Harker have this discussion about what's going on or whatever. And he's telling her, like, you're not from this natural world. You were born into this supernatural stuff or whatever. You're the only one that can kill him and blah, blah, blah. No? And okay. No? This is like...
Just buy it all at this point. You can't really argue with it anymore. Yeah.
I mean, because of course, even in the original Dracula movie, they used Nina Harker as bait to bring Dracula in, but it's not
Right.
like you're the only one that can kill him.
Yeah.
I mean, a super strong 1,000-year-old vampire, not sure of that. No, but
Yeah. 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 It's kind of
yeah,
the
I mean, this,
natural order of everything at
yeah,
this
this is,
point
this is,
of the movie.
this is also kind of the point where it's kind of ridiculous because they all know where the fuck the guy lives. Because they
Yeah.
all know where his house is. All these people from Jonathan Harker should know. They know he's a vampire. At this point, they probably all should know vampires can't go out into the daylight, even though that's not mentioned in this movie. Van
Right.
Helsing is like the super vampire expert. This is like, why are you idiots waiting? Literally.
Yeah. I would
Now,
have
this is like,
like at
this is
this
like,
point I would have gone and burnt the house down that he was in. Like
exactly, that's all you
that
have
would
to
have
do.
been the smart thing. Right?
During the day, just go and burn his fucking house down.
Yeah.
Even if he manages to survive, they took one thing from the original Dracula movie is that vampires always have to, in the night, return to the land they were born in. So that
Right.
means if a vampire goes to a somewhere, they always have to have a. That is actually what brings in the coffin and vampire thing.
Because it has to have the earth that they were changed in to be able to sleep in it. If they don't return to that before sunlight, they're done.
They die. Exactly. Exactly. They die. Exactly. And that's also in this specific this movie. So and they even say that.
Yeah, I know.
So it's just like the entire plan of how they try to kill Count Orlok in this movie is it's just ridiculously stupid. I don't get it. I don't get it
I
at
don't
this
get it
point
either.
because they were like plan it to begin with. Why not go for the easiest thing? Go to his house and just burn down his fucking
Burn it
house.
down. Yeah.
Yeah. Lock yourself all up in a house for one night, then he's gonna be dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
That would have been the
even
smart thing to do, but they would rather lure him in and do it that way and risk the lives of everybody else, and that doesn't make any sense to me at all.
yeah, yeah. And at this point, then they're basically having a discussion how we're gonna take out Count Warlock or whatever. Friedrich goes back to his family towards his wife and his kids. I guess at this point he's just
Well, he's
kind of
grief
hoping
stricken.
that
He's grief
he
stricken.
just
Like nothing he's doing is making any sense because he's in that
yeah.
level of grief to where he's not really thinking right.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah, he's probably he's seen his dead wife. Yeah, but okay, just like you say, he's still kind of a little bit, figured out.
Yeah.
However, this is the thing I don't get because then they actually go to where Friedrich was to the family too, and then
Right.
he's lying dead on his wife, even though it's very unclear how this happened. No. Yeah, of course, Jonathan Hark is just horrified by the situation. His best friend
His
died,
best
and
friend.
yeah, it's just sucks. I mean, there's no other way to put it out. Okay, so then they basically now just all go up, and now next most idiotic thing in the middle of the night, they decide to go up and kill Count Orlok. In the middle of the fucking night, they know they're dealing with a fucking vampire. Like probably this is like one of the first vampires in this specific universe, and they decide to go after him during the night. I mean, I'm sorry, but
And
you
you would
guys are all
think Van Helsing would know better than that too, right?
yes,
But he doesn't. I don't get that either.
because
It makes
Van
no
Helsing
sense.
Van Helsing is so fucking bent down on like only this woman can kill her and can kill Count Orlok. That it has to be her. He's totally in this mood. She has to be sacrificed. No, but this is just like where it's like, no, he's a fucking vampire. You know how to kill them. This is like
Didn't
I
understand it
don't know.
either. I was rolling my eyes at this point in the film.
Yeah, but the thing is, this is also the kind of thing to a certain degree that was kind of how it went down in the original Nosferatu story, but was just it's fucking ridiculous. And okay, now they're in the basement of Count Orlok's mansion with his coffin and everything, getting ready to kill him with torches or whatever. They open up his coffin and it's empty. He's not in there. No? Or oh no, that's not wait, let me think. No, that's not what happens. They open up and he just instantly stabs a stake in it, but it's not Count Orlok,
Right.
it's Redfield.
Right.
In the coffin.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
Yeah. So then this is where the kind of discussion goes down because Van Helsing reveals to Jonathan Harker finally that it can only be Nina Harker that can kill him. And he's like, you fucking idiot. Why did you leave me here? Why this vampire is going after my wife? No.
Because it was bait. Because it was bait.
Yeah, because it was bait. Exactly. Because she was bait. This is still the thing. Okay. In the original Dracula movie, they used Nina Harker as bait as well, obviously.
Yeah.
But in the original Dracula story, sunlight did not kill vampires. It just weakened them. No?
Right.
But also in the original Dracula story, they've done it really much at the end of the night. No?
Right.
During dawn, so that his
Right.
power would be weakened. No?
And they
But
could get to him, yeah.
yeah, exactly. But this is, I don't know.
It's kind of like I feel like they had to veer away from the original story here towards the end to kind of make it its own thing. And that's why we got the ending we got with the original Nosferatu.
Yeah,
They had
yeah.
to. They had to make it different in some way. And that's why we got the Nosferatu story. But the Nosferatu story is arguably much weaker than the Dracula story.
It is absolutely, because
By far.
it is absolutely weaker. It's just it's a ripoff. They changed the name of the characters, and just like you said, they had to change it so it's basically that is somehow different. But this scene itself is just, I like it because Van Helsing is just going and saying everything on fire, die, motherfucker. It's just like this. This is like this typical William Dafoe scene where he's fabulous in scenes like this.
This guy is great at acting like a maniac. That's why he portrays all the characters that he portrays, because he's brilliant. And I still would love to see the Joker. I think it is an absolute mistake that this guy has not played the Joker.
That would be amazing, though.
God.
Okay, so true at that, absolutely. I mean, I think there's so much DC fans that would love to see William Dafoe as the Joker. No?
Yeah. Please give a thumbs up. Get this guy hired because he is the Joker. He is. He should be the Joker.
He just like him. I mean, him as the Green Goblin showed how he could be a
brilliant
Joker.
Brilliant.
Yeah. However,
But he's acting like a complete maniac in the scene, setting everything on fire and just acting like a general lunatic. And I love it. I love it.
Yeah, it is great. It is great. However, then it jumps like about back direct to Nina and Jonathan Harker's apartment, where Nina Harker is in her nightgown, and you see like this is like the iconic Nosferatu scene where you see his shadow, going over the walls and everything, and then basically back to trying to reach Nina. No?
Yeah.
So now Nina's in a wedding dress for some reason. No?
I didn't understand that either. Yeah. She's wearing a wedding dress.
And then he's like, are you... Then she's kind of doing this oath with him again. Will you pledge it? Or blah, blah, blah. And then it's yes. Okay. And now this is like, I have a lot to say about this scene. Because this is pretty to the end. They start making out and, they start getting naked or whatever. No? And it's kind of like, now this is like what makes this specifically, like Count Orlok kind of to be the most weakest thing. In the original movie, he died because he forgot everything going on when he was feeding. And
he fed too long.
But
right.
But this scene specifically, even though it stays true to the source material, I mean, this is like, you can see it multiple ways. You can see it like, the sunlight killed him, or it's like this guy had sex for the first time in like 1,000 years, and he orgasmed so fucking hard that it killed him.
That's what I thought, because that's what it feels like. That's what it feels like. Like he really had to put all of his energy into this, and it just killed him. Listen to the sunlight.
You have like, I mean, this is like literally the scene where when he dies, it's like, okay.
Every woman has had this happen to them.
Yeah, like the scene itself is great, because you have like black blood dripping out of his eyes or whatever. But I remember when I watched this scene specifically, I was like, oh my fucking God, this guy came so fucking hard and killed him.
Yeah, that's what I got. I was like, this didn't have anything to do with the sunlight at all.
Yeah, that was just kind of weird. That's kind of thing, because now that's kind of what was weird going on in this scene, because is it the sunlight, or did he have like the orgasm of the century, or did he just drop down dead because of this curse thing they mentioned going on?
You don't know. Yeah,
it's never really said.
I still am not sure how he died. I mean, if you go back to the original film, it's obviously because the sunlight was out and he fed for too long, because he turns around, looks at the sun, and then disappears in the original film. Like, he dies.
Yes.
Right? And this one, he just collapses on top of her and dies. Like, right after having sex.
Yeah.
I don't get it. Yeah.
Jonathan Harker is like, wait. It says specifically in the scenes, now this is crazy. Because I just there's confirmation. No, because I'm
Okay.
I'm coming back into my notes. I didn't have this. No,
Okay. Okay.
we'll get back to it. No, but then basically you have like Jonathan Harker and Van Helsing coming in this room. Jonathan Harker is like, yeah, totally fucking out of his mind because his wife just died. Van
Yeah.
Helsing is in there like, oh well.
It's a shame. It's a real shame she had to die. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. His character is a complete fucking maniac. But this is also something that hasn't really changed because if you go back to the Dracula movie in 2000, I can't remember who played Van Helsing, but it's the same. What's the actor's name? He's the same guy who played in Silence of the Lambs.
Anthony Hopkins.
Anthony Hopkins. Anthony Hopkins. He plays this character insane as well. Like the Doctor Van Helsing is always crazy and a little bit off.
Anthony Hopkins is a great actor, but
Oh yeah.
I totally forgot. I written it down in my notes, Matt, because I looked at the past credit scenes. No, this is hilarious. Directly, when the credit scenes start, written and directed by Robert Eggers, the next thing that comes up is inspired by the screenplay Nosferatu by Henrik Gallatin and the novel Dracula by Bram Stoker.
Okay.
So Robert Eggers, literally, as confirmed here, literally, it's also based on Dracula.
Okay.
So we literally just half of the shit that was actually from Dracula scenes, it's literally from Dracula.
Well, then they should have called the movie Nosferatu based on Dracula because you get so many damn Dracula scenes in the film.
That is the official thing. It says here, no? Of course, inspired, no? By the screenplay and the novel Dracula. So it's kind of like, at this point, how should I say it? Just like I mentioned.
Kind of a hodgepodge of the two films.
Yeah, they should, at this point, they should have just made a fucking Dracula movie.
I agree, but so here's the interesting thing, right? So I wondered that because it would have been a more spectacular story and movie if they had just done Dracula. And so I wondered why he didn't. And I went back and looked it up. So the reason he chose Nosferatu is that Eggers first adapted Nosferatu into a black and white stage play during high school. And that ignited his passion for directing. So that is the only reason that he went back and did Nosferatu, because he did this as a play in high school. That's why he did it. Because he could have done Dracula, and arguably he probably, this is why I have to give it up to him for his craft. He arguably could have gotten more money and made more money, and the film would have done better if he had done Dracula. But he did Nosferatu because he was comfortable with that, and he'd already adopted it into a screenplay in high school, which is interesting. But he's obviously a huge Dracula fan because there are so many references to Dracula in this. It almost makes it not Nosferatu. I mean, this film is basically a Dracula film with maybe the parts of Nosferatu that are not so interesting shoved into it.
I mean, that's why it is. I mean, you can clearly see it is. No, it's because even in the credit scenes, it says that it's based on Dracula. It's inspired by Nosferatu, but the story is based on Dracula by Bram Stoker. So
right.
It says it here. Yeah. I mean, generally, vampire fan knows. I mean, not every. There are a lot of vampire fans that probably don't even know this. You know?
Yeah.
But just like I said in the beginning of the episode, now I don't have to repeat it here. Nosferatu has always been a cheap knockoff of Dracula.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the thing. How should I say it? One of the reasons why Nosferatu gets so much credit as it does is because the majority of things people know of modern vampires today, is sunlight kills vampires. No, they're undead. The blood transfusion thing, that is actually in most vampire stories that way.
Yeah.
Those are all things from Nosferatu. What most people have in their head about vampires is actually not from Dracula.
Yeah.
Because, of course, sunlight only weakens vampires. They can go out into the daylight. A lot of the garlic thing or whatever is neither from Nosferatu or Dracula. That is actually from the old folk tales and the old vampire legend. But you still have kind of like both things going on, the Christianity thing or whatever, and also the origin of exactly how Count Orlok became a vampire. That's kind of a mystery. And in Dracula, it was always that it happened because he was baptized and some kind of religious person, and he denounced God and basically told God to go fuck himself, and that was he was cursed
and
by
that's
God.
why he became what he was. Yeah,
something like that. I don't fully remember. No.
It was so in the original Dracula story, his wife died before he could get back from war, right? And so he came back
Exactly.
to the corpse of
Exactly.
his wife,
Yeah. Yeah.
and he was a deeply religious man and felt forsaken by God and therefore cursed God, and God cursed him with this vampire curse because of that. And that's why
Yeah.
he was what he
Exactly.
was. The other interesting thing about this movie, and I know you caught it, but I don't know if a lot of other people caught it. The stake through the heart thing is purely Dracula. Like that is the Dracula story. The stake through the heart. That's how you kill
Yes. Yes.
vampires.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
brought that into this movie from the Dracula lore because the first thing we see is a vampire getting a stake through the heart, right? So that was
Exactly.
not originally in the story. That is now part of Nosferatu, at least this version of it.
Yeah.
So he's trying to merge the lore from two different universes in this movie, and he does a really good job of it. The only thing that I don't like is kind of what you brought up, the ending scene where Count Orlok dies. They could have done that differently because it is so ambiguous. Like you don't know why the guy died. And there if you're going to use Dracula and base this off of Dracula, you could have done it that way and it would have made a lot more sense, but he didn't choose to do that, and I don't know why. Because it would have been a more spectacular ending, but it is what it
Yeah.
is.
It is what
I
it
mean,
is. It's I
and
don't
that
know.
doesn't take anything away from the ending scene. The ending scene is grotesque because you get kind of a bird's eye view of his rotted, disgusting corpse laying on top of her corpse. And he no longer looks like this big, imposing figure at the end. He looks like this half, like just emaciated, tiny corpse laying on top of her. And that was a good ending, but it's still very ambiguous as to how he died, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that bothers
It's
me.
it's weird. It's weird because how should I say it? It's, okay, the thing is, he sort of kind of burned or something or whatever that showed that. That's why you don't really know. Just like you said, I would just repeat what you said.
Yeah.
That basically why he dies. It's just like what actually just kind of was a big turn down for me is I've already said it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just like okay, and I'm definitely sure it's not only me thinking this.
Yeah. It
It's
could have
I don't
been
know.
done better. It could have been done
Okay.
better, but I mean, overall, great film. I mean, it's
Yes.
hard to it's just like The Witch. It's really hard to dislike one of Eggers' films because it drags or goes too slow.
Yeah.
This one was obviously a little bit more faster paced than The Witch was, but he does let you dwell on certain scenes to where you feel things, and I love that about Eggers. And every scene in this film, even more so than The Witch or The Lighthouse or The Norseman, every scene feels like a work of art the way it's filmed. Like the camera shots, the cinematography, the way characters are shot when they're talking, it's very, very artsy, and I appreciate it for that. It's a great film. Like I loved it. I've seen it twice now, and I have no complaints about it.
I've I've seen it, yeah, maybe twice. I think, yeah, I think I've seen it twice. It's a good movie, absolutely,
Yeah,
but there's just a lot of things going on with it. I mean, of course, just like you say, you have to give Robert Eggers due. He's a great filmmaker, and his
yeah,
movies are kind of like a piece of art.
yeah,
You have to see that. To a certain degree, I would have liked, like a Nosferatu movie. It would have if it would have leaned more into the Nosferatu because the thing is, what Nosferatu shows is the other type that it's not actually cool to be a vampire. You can see that clearly in Count Orlok. But then there just is the question, is Count Orlok that way because he did not feed for so long, or what actually is the reason? And I don't know.
yeah. You never see him get younger, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
So what's the point? That's my thing. It's like he's just feeding to stay alive. He's not a rotting corpse because he has not fed. He's a rotting corpse because as a vampire in the Nosferatu universe, you rot away. You are undead. You're
Yes, yes.
basically a zombie who has to drink human blood to stay alive. And in
Yeah,
that
yeah,
respect, being a vampire is not cool. And you have to ask yourself, why would the guy even want to stay alive? I mean, if he dies, does
yeah.
he go to hell? Is that what it is? I don't know.
But
But
it's kind of a weird
there's
thing
not much
because
incentive for him to stay alive.
no, absolutely not. I mean, this is Dracula kind of thing. You can understand why somebody would want to become that. No,
Yeah,
because even though you're undead and it has specific limitations,
yeah,
even with other vampire stories, it's understandable because immortality is always something that people have always been fascinated with. No?
yeah.
Yeah, I guarantee you there are a lot of people, if they could become immortal, they do it.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
that's why I actually like these
But
kind of
not if I
stories.
had to look like this.
No, absolutely not.
No.
Yeah, absolutely not. Because that's also the interesting thing. It's just like even with stories just like Vampires the Masquerade, because they strongly lean into the Nosferatu thing, but that's kind of like the
Yeah,
thing of the claim. No, because They're these disfigured things, and that's their curse, no?
Yeah.
And that's the funny thing is usually Nosferatu, no, they turn people into Nosferatu by that vampire clan as a punishment.
Yeah, right.
That's why. That's how actually because vampires. That's how often often in the story how they get rid of people that are kind of questioning them or conflicting them, or if somebody specifically figures out how they are and they know like the Nosferatu can use some people, they just send those people to the Nosferatu and turn
Yeah.
them into Nosferatu
Yeah,
vampires.
it's a
As
punishment.
a punishment.
Right. Well, it looks like a pretty bad punishment, dude, because this guy looks terrible throughout the entire film.
Yeah.
He looks
He
awful.
does.
Like
He doesn't get
the
better because you see, like
prosthetic that he had to wear for this was I can't
yeah.
remember how much it weighed, but it's this huge latex prosthetic of a rotting corpse. Basically, is
Yeah,
what it is.
and
It's
you can see
disgusting.
the way it breathes.
Yeah, he's a corpse. I had it on last night, and my aunt Diane's here at the beach house, and she was watching it. She's like, and she was a fan of the original Nosferatu. She's like, he really is breathing hard and disgustingly, and I don't remember that from the original. I'm like, well, they didn't do it in the original because the original he wasn't necessarily like a rotting corpse. He was just a disgusting being. But in this, he's basically just a nasty fucking corpse that's rotting away, and that's why he's breathing that way. I don't know. I liked it. I like this take on Nosferatu. I do.
It was good.
I do.
It was good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked it too. It was interesting. I would say, but still, I prefer the Dracula.
I do too. We need to get some type of crowdfunding together so we can get Eggers to make a Dracula movie now. Since he seems to like Dracula so much, because I would love to see his take on Dracula, because I'm a Dracula fan. Like I like Nosferatu, but I love Dracula, and I would love to see what he could do with it, or if he could even do better than what Coppola did. You know?
Yeah. There was also when it comes to Dracula, I thought it was a shame. Dracula Untold. No, you seen that one?
Yeah, I've seen it.
I like that movie. I thought
It's great.
I thought it was great. It was just a shame that movie was kind of like such a fail.
Yeah, that's the thing. You have to do certain things in a Dracula movie to get the fandom to be interested in it. And I think the way that you would want to do it to where Dracula fans are going to be like, yes, this is a movie that I want to see, is kind of the 2000s version that Coppola did with Anthony Hopkins and Keanu Reeves. Like that was perfect. It had just the right amount of gothic to it and just the right amount of creepiness. Cinematography was great. Every scene was filmed in a way that was creepy, and it was done really well. That was the perfect Dracula movie, and I would love to see a step up from that because it hasn't been done. There's not another Dracula movie in my mind that is as good as that movie.
No, not at all. I mean,
There's
even
not.
though the other Dracula movies, the Wes Craven's Dracula trilogy was wacky, I would say.
It's wacky. Definitely wacky, yeah. But it's Wes Craven.
it
What are you
was-
gonna do?
Yeah, it was interesting in its own way. It was just like it was totally off the wall, but it was quite interesting. I would say.
Yeah. The only thing we didn't get, and I hate it, like there's been different writer directors that have done Dracula or even Nosferatu. The one that I would have loved to have seen but never happened was a John Carpenter's Dracula, because I would have loved to have seen what that guy could do with it. John Carpenter is the master of creepiness for me in terms of like characters like Dracula. He would have really done that well.
Absolutely. Do you not remember John Carpenter's Vampires?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Vampires was
Yeah.
great. I would love to see him do a Dracula film.
That would have been awesome.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, we're gonna have to do vampires. I would love to do.
I mean, definitely. I mean, just so you know, I'm always in for vampires and werewolves.
Yeah, I know you are. That's what I'm saying. We're gonna have to like pick and choose which vampire movies we do, because I love vampires as well. We need to do The Lost Boys too. The Lost Boys is a classic.
Absolutely. That is like one of the
Fucking love
best
that movie.
vampire movies ever made. No?
Yeah. It had just the right amount of gore, and it also had very interesting characters, which is what I appreciate. Like if you're gonna do a movie about vampires, get me to love the characters first. That way, when you kill them off, it actually hurts a little bit. And they did that in that movie, and I would love to do that one. But anyway, Mike, so the kids are awake and everybody wants to come downstairs, so I'm gonna have to cut it off. But
no problem.
what do you rate this movie? 1 to 10.
I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10.
Okay.
Yeah,
Why?
Because, how should I say it? It's a good movie, and there's not really much you can criticize about it. It's just specifically the way they done the ending, everything lead up to how they got Count Orlok set up is so insanely stupid.
Yep.
And specifically how the ending scene would come, even though the scene itself is done. I mean, when it comes to the effects, how it's done is great. It's just how that's all built into the story is just so. I don't know that I would just say I would definitely give it a 7 out of 10.
Okay. Yeah, for me, I'd give this one maybe like a 6, which is a shame. Like I don't think it's a bad movie. I don't even think it's deserving of a 6. In terms of like professionalism and how they did it and all the work that went into this movie, it probably deserves much higher than that. I just feel like there was more concentration on that than there was on story. And you had a good template to follow. You know what I mean? It wasn't like the story wasn't originally there. You could have just followed the template and kind of done your own spin on it, and it would have been okay. But he tried to insert so much other lore into this that it gets confusing and it kind of ruins the end for me. Like the
Yeah.
ending scene is such a letdown. Like there is no climax in this film, except
That's
for the
true.
one that killed Count Orlok. But yeah, I'll give it a 6,
Yep.
man. I'll give it a
Yep.
6 and call it a day.
Or the orgasm of the century.
The orgasm of the century that killed Count Orlok.
Yep.
You know what? That needs to be. Maybe we should change the title on the thumbnail. The orgasm of the century.
You want to do that?
Yeah, do it. Do it. Change it to the orgasm of the century. That's classic.
Okay.
I love
Okay.
it.
I'll see if I can change it.
Okay. All right, dude. I got to cut it off because they all want to come
Yep. Yep.
downstairs, and the kids are going to hate their uncle if I don't let them come downstairs now.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. So until next time, guys, this is Matt.
Yep. This is Mike. No. Bye.
We'll see you guys later.
See you guys later.
The black skies, the dark side. Simply